made possible by our generous Patreon donors, including Action Fedlora of Excalibur, Sayul of Adamantoid, Theron Kadeen of Hyperion. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to support Limit Break Radio, visit patreon.com/Limit Break Radio.
From Eorzea.
Limit Break with your hosts, Nero.
Now behold the horror you have wrought.
Kahlo.
I said don't take your clothes off.
Juxtaposition.
I don't get it.
Ascalia.
Holy shit, totally forgot about him.
And Nika.
Oh my god.
LimitBreakRadio.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everybody, to Limit Break Radio.
You're not a
Sound quality... Oh, shush. You just stop right now, okay? Things might sound a little bit different today. We are, of course, without a Nero today, which means that we didn't have access to the official studio. So, we have a little bit of a different setup here. So just bear with us today and know that it's still going to be just as awesome. So, let's... Juxta awesome. Let's go ahead and kick it on over to the studio. And, I would like to now welcome you all to LBR NWO. That is the Limit Break Radio New World Order.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. As you can see, sitting upon my throne made of gilded oak, I assume, is me. Your one true master, Kahlo Landist, and of course beside me, my right hand, Juxtaposition, and Nika, where are you?
I'm on my way.
No, where are you?
I'm sorry, I was in Africa capturing soldiers as Big Boss, and I'm here now.
You see? See, we give you, in the New World Order, the prestigious and often coveted role of the new intern, and this is how you behave?
Terrible.
Your first day on the job and you can't even
first
show
day,
up
I
on
know.
time? You at least better have donuts and coffee.
I have Panera.
Oh, Panera's awful.
Bread. You have bread.
I have sandwiches and soup.
Oh my
Overpriced
gosh.
bread.
Juxta, I'm gonna need you to deal with this.
All right. Well, actually, I would go over there and slap her across the face, but she's not even here.
She's
so,
not even here.
So
I am here. I'm at the door. Knock, knock.
All right,
I say
well-
we promote my wind-up Tataru to intern status.
Okay, Wind Up Tataru is a better intern
Stand
than
here.
Dump Truck Hands Femro Nika. So we have a let's see, how does the studio look today? It's pretty not very full actually. We have a few people over there.
What's on one side of the room? Is the other room
It's
too
hard.
smelly?
It's hard for me to see because when I turn the camera behind me, I'm so small, you guys, and the chair is just in the way. But of course, we do have Kooky and Fairbear and a few other people here today. So we're gonna see how this goes, which is awesome because we don't need a Nero. Also today, we're also missing out on Ascalia again. He does send his best wishes to everyone. He is dealing with that thing that we all like to refer to as real life. So
The end boss.
The end boss, that's right. But he does send his best wishes. He misses everyone, and he's going to be back with us as soon as he can. Now, I've been getting... yeah. I've been getting, and actually, you know what? Where is the Nero, actually? Not here this week. You want to know where he's at? He's off
Rocking
having...
out.
Yeah. Rocking out, quote-unquote, having fun at Riot Fest or some such.
Who's allowed to have fun? Not him.
Yeah, right? We're the ones that are supposed to have fun. But no, now I have to step up. I have to be the boss. I have to
You have to do work.
You're telling me you don't like it.
do work and not have fun. I get to be the mean one now. I have to give everyone their daily dose of salt. So that's what you all have to look forward to. And Nero's out there with all his little punk rock friends and hanging out with big burly tattooed bikers with beards, I assume. Cool.
Ooh.
Have fun in Nero. What, you
I
like
wish
big
I had.
tattooed burly guys with beards?
No, well, I'm not a biker, but I'm one of I want to be a tattooed man, big fat tattoo guy. Do you guys remember how I was talking about that tattoo I wanted before?
No.
Remember?
No.
The legacy tattoo.
Oh.
Why
You're
did
actually
you?
gonna get one of those?
You're
Yes, I'm
not.
gonna
You're not
get
even
one.
a real legacy member.
I have the tattoo
I
on
don't-
my back.
I don't
right
care
now.
if you have the tattoo on your back. You're not real legacy.
I was a character in the 1.0, and that counts.
I tell you what. If you can find your name on the credits where it's scrolling and it shows all legacy
Oh,
players,
that doesn't even count.
If you
Nero's
can-
name isn't on there, so it doesn't
My
matter.
name's there.
Is it?
you-
I didn't see it.
if
It
you
is
can
there.
find your name on there, I will agree that you are a legacy person. But until then, you are a fake legacy person who did nothing but kill mole rats or some such stupid thing.
Star marmots, and
Star
the
marmots.
population was swelling. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations for fixing our star marmot problem.
You're welcome.
All right.
All raw.
Moving on. We've been getting quite a few emails and messages and stuff asking what our topic for this week is going to be.
Do we not have any news?
Do we not? I don't think
There's no news.
I don't think there is no news. No.
Show again. That's
Yeah.
all, and it's not even here yet.
Yep. Pretty much. So we're
It
just
holds no new.
waiting on the Tokyo show at this point.
Hopefully, we'll get a date for 3.1. That's
I'm surprised at this point we haven't. I mean, how long has Heaven's Ward been out? It's nearing the 3-month mark, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, in 3 months. That's supposed to be their plan. A patch every 3 months. So
I think they're taking so long to get a real patch out because they want everyone to like get super caught up on all like the story and get everyone level 60, and that's why it's taking a little bit longer than 3 months to get this 3.1 patch out.
well, here's another question too, because Alexander, usually that type of thing would have been reserved for a patch. So because we got a big chunk of content like that, the question is, do we allow them a little bit longer in that 3-month period for the patch, since that's like a little bit of a supplement?
Gosh, I really hope not.
No, because they only release stuff like that every other patch. So they've already said their 24-man one's coming this time around. So I don't think that matters.
So
too much.
Alexander is sort of just like part of like the initial sort of expansion release then?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like that in 1.0 when Coil came out right at the start, right?
Was
Or
it not part of
2.0.
2.1? It was like 2.01 or whatever?
I think it was out there right at the start, wasn't it?
Actually, I think it was. I don't know. I didn't get into it right away, so I'm not sure.
Oh,
I'm pretty
well,
sure.
yeah. All right, well, hopefully, we do get that at Tokyo Game Show. I really hope it's a lot more eventful than PAX was for Square Enix. But moving on to what our episode is today, it's kind of a special one, in a way. I know that before we've done with the Raid Anxiety episode. That was an episode and a topic that was spawned from an email that someone sent, and we thought, oh, cool, this would make for a really good episode. And this one here is actually the same way. We are calling this episode the Tinfoil Hat Conspiracy episode. What you're about to hear in today's episode, there isn't much truth to it, if anything at all. Basically, what we're going to be doing is sort of making our own predictions and our own theories about what Square Enix could, at any point, put in the game and how it might come to be. And I'm going to read you the email that we got so that you can kind of see where this spawned from. All right. So the email starts. First of all, let me say that I love LBR. I started listening just after 2.0 launched and even ran into a Nero and Nika at FanFest, which was awesome.
I'm sorry.
I watched Nika wipe to Leviathan single tank, I think. Oh, Nika.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
That happened. Tisk, tisk, tisk.
Terrible. I bet you were a paladin, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah.
Your show makes the commute fantastic.
Actually, no, let me tell you. We had a Dragoon off.
Oh,
tank, and
okay.
it wasn't that bad.
Oh.
It wasn't that bad, but people kept getting hit by stuff, so we died.
Blame it on the
It
Dragoon
happened.
tank.
No,
Yes.
it wasn't even the Dragoon. Everyone just got knocked off. It happened.
It was the paladin.
We're moving on. Moving on.
Dragoon tank. That sounds like it's for real.
It works as an
Okay.
off tank. For Leviathan, try it sometime.
Okay, I will try it sometime. Your show makes the commute fantastic and gets me hyped to play when I get home. Like some of you, my first MMO was Final Fantasy XI. I wasn't very hardcore. I got 1 or 2 jobs to 75, Beastmaster for life, and then stopped around Wings the Goddess. I played the 14 1.0 beta but never subbed, as I was waiting for the console version. Started 14 during the 2.0 PS3 beta and have never looked back. I have never been so engaged with a game. With the weekly shows, I love the variety of topics that you are covering lately. I love the Salt episode and the Fallout episode after. I also love the discussion shows, which I feel is the strength of your show. Hearing adults that may disagree, always disagree, discuss the game is interesting and engaging. The episode idea plays on exactly those strengths. Personally, I really like to game craft on FF14 and come up with fun ways that things could happen, or new mechanics, dungeons, raids, jobs, activities, quests, minigames, etc. that SC could add. There's a decent community of people that do the same. Unfortunately, there isn't really a specific place to do this. It somewhat happens on the official forums, but there isn't a specific place for it. So it mostly ends up in website suggestions section. So it probably doesn't get a lot of eyes on it, and what exists is mostly discussed in the micro community there. There is a Reddit, but because the subreddit includes hardcore and casual, first time and long time, legacy and non-legacy, teenagers and adults, inevitably any ideas, good or bad, gets downvoted to hell, because it isn't a funny screenshot of something that happened in-game or news about new content. Anyway, I like to keep my eye on this stuff, and I feel like it's fun to discuss, as well as pick apart other ideas and help build up an interesting concept. I feel like it would be fun for a show to assign people a side of the debate, and have the two sides fight it out. Let Juxta Nero shit all over the idea. Let Kahlo, Nika, and Ascalia defend it. It would be interesting to hear different sides of each. That may just happen naturally through organic discussion, but may be interesting in a debate-off type forum. And this email comes from Po Rangatang of Gilgamesh. So that's what we're going to do today. Basically, this email had a whole bunch of different ideas of different things that we could talk about, and I just took all of those things, turned it into a show outline, and today, me, my right hand, juxtaposition, and our intern, or ex-intern, as she's been fired, not even 20 minutes
When have I
into
been
the show.
demoted to intern?
What?
When
Have I-
our Lord
Demoted?
and Savior
No.
Kahlo Landis became head of the LBR estate.
We promoted you. You were just like a femro before, and now you're the intern.
Oh man.
We're even gonna pay for a Fantasia for you, so you can just get out of that terrible, terrible skin.
I don't even know what to say to that.
A thank
Say
you would
thank
be
you.
nice. Yeah.
I think I will abstain from anything.
And I'm afraid that's why you were fired. All hail intern Tataru, the minion.
Good job.
So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about, similar to how we kind of had a brief on the last episode, we briefly touched upon how we thought blue might work in the game. We're going to go through a whole bunch of different things like that, and basically theory craft, in a way, about how these different instances, these different events or dungeon ideas or jobs could work within Final Fantasy XIV. Are you guys excited?
I'm excited.
so excited.
I'm
Hopefully,
excited too.
we can hold the fort for our missing 2 members.
We can totally
I
hold
think
the
we
fort
can.
for those two. Like I said, I'm going to try and bring as
Although
much
you're half
salt
the
as I
person you
can.
used to be as a Lullafell, so
Oh! Oh!
Oh, that was
Oh!
just saying.
that was
did-
a good burn.
Did Nika just bring the jokes?
Maybe
I think-
I've got to step it up too.
Oh my, you know what? Round of applause. Round of
Oh, yeah.
applause. It's only taken her a little over a year and 30 episodes to finally come up with a proper burn. That's great.
Thank you.
I am
Thank
so
you.
proud of you.
I'm going on tour next week. Thank you.
Tell Senpai that was a good one. I'm sure that he was whispering in your ear.
Actually, he's playing Metal Gear and he can't really hear me. So.
All right. So first on the list, and this is something I think we've briefly touched upon a little bit before, and it was something that was originally in the 1.0 concept, and that was how could Disciples of the Hand and Land be utilized in combat situations? First of all, when I first heard about this when 1.0 came out, I'm sorry. It's dumb. That's just the stupidest
you could
idea.
Start out as a disciple of the hand, like your starting job. You could pick like minor.
That's so stupid, though. Like, come on. When you want to go out into the field and kill and slaughter stuff, you want to do it as a warrior with a giant fucking axe. You want to do it as a black mage, searing and burning things to a crisp. You don't want to walk out with a fucking pick and rocks or fucking gardening shears and take on star marmots, alright? I'm sorry,
It was hilarious. I actually tried doing some of the cutscenes as like I think it was either it was definitely a miner, and you had an option instead of auto attack to throw a stone.
Why?
It was so they allowed you to do combat with those classes, since you could start at them, they had to provide something. But I mean, I tried one of the first story missions, I think, as a miner, and you throw a stone, it did like 1 damage or something, and then you just die.
That's so terrible.
Okay, now they could have made this work. All
You
right.
didn't even take your pickaxe and hit him with it. No, you literally threw stones.
All right, Juxta.
could've
How do you think this could work?
They could have had the hand and land jobs as like the support role in 11. They could have had like the armorer go over to the tank and give him like repair his gear mid combat and give him like a buff.
Okay, but
Or,
how often do you think you have to do that in combat? I mean, how often do you actually repair your gear?
Well, he's saying it would give an extra buff if you did that. It would be like
Yeah.
a quote unquote repair, where you go up to him and be like, I'm gonna strengthen your armor for 5 minutes and make you tougher or something.
Okay, so do you want to be that guy who comes into the raid and has one move that he does per battle?
Well, no, they'd obviously flesh it out. So maybe like all the armorers would be like all about making you have like better defensive buffs, and then the goldsmith would like enhance your attack capabilities because it makes your armor shinier or some bullshit. And then like mid dungeon, you could have like nodes that they could go and like mine from, and then to make I don't know, like have like a different like it would open up the instance. You could like go into like secret areas to fight secret bosses or some bullshit. You know, they could have made it work.
Okay.
That's the thing, is they could have made it work. It could have been
Maybe.
like a 5-party setup with one support, which is one hand or land, and then that whatever you put in that slot like would enhance you somewhat further, you know?
The key term in your whole little spiel right there is bullshit. Because that's what this idea is, okay?
I mean, I think if our game had the big giant like free company type of content, you know, in 11 how you would have multiple alliances of people, and if one alliance died, you throw the next alliance. I think if you had a regular alliance of DPS and tanks and healers fighting this boss, you could have a whole alliance of crafting classes, and that you would swap in those alliances of crafting classes that like buff the party and then swap them out. But I mean, those people wouldn't get very much excitement from that, because I mean, they would just kind of be waiting there on the sidelines. But it would really only work in a situation where you would have like a ton of people there, and there would be some people there to help. I don't think.
No, here's what they could do. They could design an entire event around it, and you have your standard 8-man setup for fighting the monsters. Then you have your hand and land people, and it's like salvage, where like all your gear is stripped. So you have your main alliance trying to protect the gatherers, and they have to gather special materials, and then they give the materials to the crafters.
Oh my
god! They craft the gear for you in the event dungeon, and then you can actually have hand and land people in an in-game dungeon, and then they'd have a point.
And then they would only have a point for the first 10 or 15 minutes of it, because once you have your gear, you're like, bye, Felicia, and you run off and do your attacking stuff.
Or, no, what if instead of having to actually be on that class, if you have a class at 60, or say if you're a specialist, if you have the class at 60 and you're a specialist, you can, as, say, a white mage, in your offhand for a certain amount of time, you can equip that tool, and you can add a little buff to your party only if you're a specialist at 60. And so instead of switching classes, you equip it as like a sub thing.
Now, see, that's actually something that we got an email on a previous episode about, and we fleshed out a little bit. But I think if you want to involve crafting classes and gathering classes in some type of endgame capacity, that's the way you need to go about it. Instead of it just being, straight up you come as a weaver or you come as a carpenter, as long as you have them at max level, like you said, as a specialist, you get bonuses out in combat fields as those things. The email that we got actually mentioned, like, for example, let's say that you're fighting Titan and you happen to be a specialist in Minor. You actually get a special cross-class ability that helps you do something to Titan, whether it's like, weaken him substantially or something like that. And I think if each of those different crafting classes or specialists gave some type of combat cross-class ability, that I think would be really cool.
No, that'd be bad.
That is a neat idea.
No, it's a terrible idea because now everyone is forced to level a crafting class.
Not forced.
No, they do. Because if you don't have this good cross-class skill, then you're a gimp, and then you have to have someone donate to Patreon to force yourself to level to get from. Actually,
no. I think this allows for a good type of customization within your jobs. Because
yes.
Rather than.
Doesn't.
No, it does. Listen. So you have a static 8-man group. You're going to try to plan it out so that everyone in your group levels a different, like a different specialist craft or a different hand or land job. So that way each person can kind of pick their favorite, and then you'll have that cross class, and it won't really matter if it's the paladin or if it's the white mage or whoever that has that ability, as long as somebody has it, and you kind of spread it out amongst your group based on what you like. And so that way, not everyone's exactly the same. You can kind of choose, and it's probably the first idea of customization you'd actually have in this game.
Yeah, and this makes a lot more sense than your idea, Juxta, of having the regular party like you do, and then putting in one hand or land class, because then you're queuing, and instead of waiting an hour for a tank or a healer, you're waiting an hour for a fucking miner, because nobody wants to play those damn things.
Yeah, and as long as they make the cross-class abilities for every single job good, and it's not like, oh, the armorer one sucks, you gotta do blacksmith. As long as they're all worth it in some capacity, yeah, everyone's gonna feel like they have to level at least 3 to specialize, but I feel like it won't really matter which 3 because they're all gonna be worth it. And so, they'll have to pick up someone and be like, oh, which specialist ones do you have? You have those 3? Awesome. And I think as long as they're all equally good and they balance it properly, I think it could allow for a lot of fun choices.
No, because this is going to be stupid, because I don't want to level a crafting class to make my combat class better.
Because leveling crafting classes is so fucking hard, Juxta.
All you have to have is have it at 60 for the cross class.
Yeah, what level is your crafting class?
I had everything to 50, and once I actually
50
get up
now, what is it?
Okay, but it's not hard to do. All I have to do is go to a beneficiary and be like, here, make me these things in high quality so that I can turn them in.
Who doesn't have a beneficiary?
Well, they need to get good.
Yeah, all you have to do is do your daily turn-ins at your Grand Company every single day. Like, I have one level 60 that I focus on.
That too.
Everything else is level 53 just from, and I haven't done it in a long time, but just turning in every single day, I've gotten to 53 or 52 on everything at least. I mean, it's not hard to do.
No,
So,
if you actually look into,
you don't have to actually gear it. You just have to be at the level for the cross-class ability.
If you actually look into and research how to level, not just through making shit, because if you just sit there and try and craft all day long, yeah, it's going to take you a while.
It's super easy.
That's right.
Oh,
it's
also
so fucking easy.
The land classes, the leaves for miner and botanist are super easy.
I play this game
just
to kill
do it with
monsters, not to mine shit so I can maybe do a thing to Titan. That's dumb.
Your face is dumb.
See, my idea makes sense because the people who actually want to level miner or whatever awful thing we have now, they can do that. And it could be even an optional thing. So if you don't have that 5th slot, you can just go in anyway because you don't need it, but it's a nice little benefit.
So everyone just goes in without that 5th slot because crafters are terrible.
Well, there you go. But now the option exists.
At least the option is there. Alright, as a separate sort of like new event, I could possibly maybe see that working, but I also think, like Nika said, our idea would finally allow for some type of further customization among jobs. So when you're looking for, let's say you want a Dragoon, for whatever fucking reason, you want a Dragoon to be in your party, alright?
Dragoons are good.
Okay. Nika, you're silly. It's no longer just like, all right, out of these 2 Dragoons, which one has the better gear? Because that's essentially what it comes down to, all all other things being equal. But at this point now, maybe instead of just, oh, we need a Dragoon, we need someone who has the minor ability, right? So it allows you.
So now we need a Dragoon minor?
No, but you
That
can have
sounds
anyone.
terrible.
No, because if you already have someone in your party that has the minor ability, it allows for someone else. Oh, this Dragoon also has this other ability. Let's get him. I think it would require a lot of balance between the cross-class abilities. Where if say that minor one was really, really good, then But then again, if it is situational, like the minor one is good against Titan, you're going to want at least one person with the minor ability, and it doesn't matter what job it is. So maybe that would make people want to take, oh, this paladin has a minor ability. We don't need a warrior. We can take the paladin because he has the minor ability. But
Said no one ever.
But you know what I mean? It allows for a little bit more customization based on what you like and based on the situation, which there's not a lot of situational things in this game. And it won't be based on your job necessarily, because you can still come even if you don't have that ability, but it's like an extra help if you do have it.
Word.
Well, they do need more customization in this game, that's for sure.
You know what, Nika? I like the cut of your jib. I'm promoting you back to intern status.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. We'll talk about the whole you changing your look thing later, because that's kind of a stipulation on it. But don't worry about that. We'll
All
get
right,
to
I
that.
can go sexy.
Wind
What?
Up Tataru has...
Oh, jeez. Put your
See,
clothes
this is what we
back on.
brought.
Put your clothes
Like,
back on.
Why do you have, what is with the arms? Like,
Oh,
why
it's
do
because
you...
I got Alexander arms and I haven't glamored them.
Or the legs? Like, why are you wearing those legs?
I
That's terrible.
based it on a Monster Hunter gear set, and they have like these cool
Oh my gosh. Alright, moving on. What else do we have here?
Those legs look like something that Crocs would make. They're terrible.
Actually, they're the high level. I think they're the high level like land class the land class high level piece. They're cool.
Terrible.
Awful.
So okay, that's your crafter episode right there, guys. That's as good as you're gonna get from Limit Break Radio.
Enjoy your crafting episode,
Yeah.
which only came to fruition because a Nero isn't here.
Fruition.
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 Goku Star 7 wants to know why that man is wearing a bra.
Oh,
It's because
man,
it's the
so
second...
Nika heart for you.
No, it's
Naked
the
dude
second-
on the stream reporting.
It's
The
the...
Femro is really dumb though. Look at it.
Those legs are anything but high level.
Oh man. Hey,
no,
you
it's
guys are
It's the
harsh.
second gen Rotogen race. The first one is male, obviously, and then the second one is male with boobs, so... Nika is the male with boobs Rotogen.
Except look at my face. I am quite a feminine-faced Rogadin. There are some female Rogadins that have more of the stronger jaw and more masculine-looking features, but mine is very pretty.
Okay, look. We did a crafter episode now. We are not doing a Femro episode. I cannot deal with both of those things in one episode. Okay?
Next time.
All right. So
Peter
moving on
and
to our
I'm
next...
in charge, and I'm going to thread this one in there.
Moving on to our next game crafting, as Po Rangatang put it. This is probably the one that we're going to get the most mileage out of. And like I said, we did a little bit last time talking about Blue and Red and Sam. But how could blank job work in Final Fantasy XIV? We talked mostly about Blue last time, and we kind of mentioned a little bit like how where Red Mage and Samurai might fit into the hierarchy, but I've been thinking a lot about Samurai as a tank, especially considering how right now, between Dark Knight, Warrior, and Paladin, they all play very, very similarly, and obviously, the whole Paladin fiasco, lagging behind, they need buffs, blah, 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 whatever. Nika, how, if Samurai was introduced as a tank, how do you see them fitting into that paradigm?
I have been saying forever, which is what I thought they were going to do with Dark Knight, that they were going to change the way that parry scales and make it a parry tank. But they would actually have to do a major overhaul of the parry system right now. Because with a huge-ass sword like that, you could parry everything, and I think that would be sweet.
Didn't they already change the way parry worked a little bit with Heaven's Ward?
Sort of. They changed the way that the damage reduction works on parry and shield blocking, but they didn't really change the way that it scales as a stat on your gear. So if you have so much like parry plus 30 or whatever, it doesn't scale as highly as like strength plus 30 would. So it's not. That's why nobody uses parry as a skill on your gear, because it's not good.
Just as a really quick aside, RazorClaw99 asked, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the show too, if we were taking calls today. Due to the nature of our current setup, we are not going to be able to take calls today, which really sucks. I know this would have been a really awesome topic for people to call into. So we really encourage everyone who has anything to say on any of these topics, please email us. hosts@limitbreakradio.com. We really want to hear, everything that you have to say about this, any of your kinds of ideas, and go ahead and send those emails in, and hopefully on the next show, or maybe the next 2 shows, because I definitely foresee a lot of emails coming in regarding these topics. Send those in, and we will be sure to get to your emails. But again, we apologize for not being able to take calls this week, because we're out of the studio. We have a very low-tech setup that we're using right now compared to what we are normally doing. But yes, absolutely, you can try and ask questions in the chat, and if we happen to catch them, we'll make sure they get read on air. And yes, Carletta, there will be no Rob from New York this week. We apologize. So, all right. So Samurai as a parry take. Conceptually, though, that's really the same thing as just blocking. It's just parrying instead of it. What kind of mechanics do you see Samurai using?
I don't know. Okay, so let's think. Back in 11, they had third eye. They could do something like that since Ninja was also like the blink tank, and we don't have an evasion, avoiding damage type of tank in this game. So they could do something along the lines of third eye, but I feel like Samurai is not really known for its evasion.
Yeah, that doesn't really fit in thematically with.
And since they didn't
the
make
idea of a
Ninja
samurai.
a tank. I honestly think at this point, when they were talking about choosing Samurai or Dark Knight for the tank, and they chose Dark Knight, I honestly think at this point, if they put in Samurai, it's going to end up as a DPS.
You think so?
No.
I do.
I'll put money on that. If Samurai ever becomes a job, it's going to be a tank.
You think so?
I'll put...
I mean, I know we talked about if they released Samurai, Blue Mage, and Red Mage as the trio, it would make sense for Red Mage to be the healer, Blue Mage to be the DPS, Samurai to be the tank, but I don't know if they're going to do it that way.
No, okay, think of it this way. Yoshi said that it was Into the Wire versus Dark Knight versus Samurai. And the reason Samurai didn't get in was because Dark Knight made it in. So that, to me, puts in like big neon flashing letters that Samurai was going to be a tank if Knight wasn't the tank. But because Dark Knight got to be the tank, that means that there was no room for Samurai because they always envisioned Samurai as a tank. That's my thought.
All right. First of all, Juxta, how much money are you willing to put on this bet?
How much money is Nika willing to put on this bet?
Nika?
Well, let's see. Do we have to do money? We can think of something else.
You can do
for the
Gil.
show. We can
You
think of
can
something
do
for
Gil.
the show. Something for the show. Like, me and Aniro have that bet where we have to sing if we lose. Me and Juxta can have a go-off against what Samurai is going to be when it's implemented in the game. I don't know what the wager will be, but not Gil. You guys have a bajillion Gil. I don't have that much Gil.
I only have like 3.8 mil.
That's it?
Yeah, the beneficiary hasn't really been giving me much.
Oh, I'm up to like
I haven't really
7.8.
been asking either, so.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We can think about that. But I am wondering, though, you do have a good point. If Samurai was a DPS, what other jobs could they put in as a tank?
Well, I'm going to have to go with Jux on this. I also think that if they put Samurai in, it's going to be a tank. And where I think that it could fit in the paradigm, if they want to do something cool and different with it, and actually Cilias8, I think their name was from the chat, asked this. I think that instead of blink tanking as like, oh, I'm dodging and you're missing, I think that they could do more as a counterattack. So go on your idea that they're a parry tank, right? But give them a chance or abilities, and this is what where their DPS could come from, and figuring out how to use these abilities effectively, I think would also be very interesting. But whenever you parry, you have a chance to counterattack back, either just doing whatever your normal damage would be for those, or doing a percentage type damage back based on how much damage you were able to parry. Thoughts?
That's
They
an
would name that
interesting
skill
idea.
Retaliate.
Well, do we have any kind of retaliate ability in the game right now?
I think Warrior has something like that. Vengeance?
Warrior has a buff that when you get attacked for as long as the buff lasts, it does like a pulse back to the enemy and hurts them. But other than that, I don't think we have anything.
So I think that would be really cool. I think the idea of parrying and counterattacking is something that we don't have in the game yet, and obviously throughout Final Fantasy history, you know, the retaliate counterattack abilities is something that's normally attributed to samurais, is it not?
Now, how are they going to fit? My question is, how are they going to fit the guild toss ability into samurai? Because that's what I picture when I hear samurai. I just think of samurais just throwing tons and tons of money at the problem.
That's a terrible idea.
That's never been a good move in any game that's
no.
Final Fantasy V, bitch! What up?
What up?
Okay.
The other thing that I was thinking of, because samurai is, you know, one of those sort of Middle Eastern themed jobs, just like ninja or just like monk is, and with the way that they've recently changed monks' greased lightning stacks to work as a sort of resource, I could also see them maybe working something similar to that into samurai.
What do you mean?
Well, as you get greased lightning stacks up on monk, you can now do certain moves that consume your greased lightning stacks to like do more damage or to do additional effects, right?
You have one move like that.
Oh, is there just one? Really?
Yeah, it's kind of like how Warriors is. When you get a stack of 5, you can then like use a move or whatever to get rid of it. So Monks really is only something you want to use at the very end of a boss fight where you know you're going to lose your stacks anyway, or like at the end of a pull. And what it does is it does a really big sweet move where you flip off of the enemy, you lose all of your stacks, and you do a shit ton of damage.
How often do you use that?
You use it at the, if you remember, like when the enemy's at 1%, you'll use it. It's kind of like a little extra 2,000 damage boost that you'll get if you know you're going to lose your stack. So like in Alexander, if you know it's about to jump and fly in the air and you're going to lose your stacks, you try to get it in before it jumps. That kind of thing.
That is terribly underwhelming. Like
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's a really
all
cool
Monk
move,
got
and when-
for the expansion?
I mean, no, but the thing is they increased Grease Lightning damage and critical hit and stuff, so you could do more damage as you get more Grease Lightning stacks.
Right, but that's all
in
just
terms of
so...
abilities,
That's
it's
all just so static and like normal. Like nothing really changed about the way that their rotation really works. Then like you're really just the same monk.
Yeah, although when they did the Grease Lightning buff, they added a couple more seconds on, which has made all of the difference in the way that monks played, because so often you're trying to rush back and, you know, after doing a mechanic and you hit the boss and you like miss keeping your stacks by 1 second. So that kind of thing was a good boost, but in terms of abilities and things, no, like a monk always wants their stacks on at all times. You never want them to drop.
Obviously, you don't necessarily. If the only ability you have is to take all of them away, then yeah, that's going to be a huge DPS loss. But I feel like Square Enix, you know, could really go a lot further with this, or really missed out on giving monks some more interesting mechanics if you had other moves or were able to apply different buffs to yourself by consuming 1 or 2 stacks. If they made those worth it, I think that could have made the job a lot more interesting.
That would be cool.
Yeah, well, all right, since they haven't done that with Monk yet, maybe that's something they could give to Samurai. Maybe Samurai has some type of, you know, focus or like, you know, they have their third eye ability, right? Maybe they have some type of buff or resource that they have to build on throughout. Like, you know, every time they parry and it delivers a counterattack, it gives them one of these resources, and they use those in a way to increase damage or increase their defense or use those for their cooldowns. That could be something that I think would be really unique and definitely new within the tank hierarchy.
Let's just call it what it is. They're going to give Samurai mudras. They're going to staple our two katanas together to make a big katana, and they're going to call that a tank. That's going to be Samurai. It's just a ninja with 2 katanas stapled together.
Stapled together.
Yeah.
Duct taped. Double-bladed. Would it be a double-bladed great katana?
Oh, no, because that'd be really cool. So samurais can have the double blade.
Because we want them.
Well, because, yeah, they should have...
No, I think it'd be cool to give Dragoon a double-bladed lance, though. That would be cool.
We're not talking about Dragoons. Dragoons are dumb.
Dragoons don't get anything cool.
No.
Shit, Dragoons are one of the most complicated jobs in this game, though.
V. Musoa has mentioned that they could repurpose Zanshin for this buff system you're talking about. Oh.
Right, Zanshin was the pair... What was that? How did that work?
It was
the
like a parry counterattack thingy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how it worked because I remember every time it went off, I'd go Zanshin, but I can't remember how it worked.
Yeah, so it's not like there isn't any kind of precedence for mechanics that are based around this kind of system, because in fact at the end of 11, or at some point in 11, people were starting to utilize was it like samurai nins as tanks, keeping hate through like sheer DPS, weren't they? Or am I imagining that?
So I think in some instances, or like in
pretend.
parties, you could do that. I don't think anyone did that in Endgame necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Zanshin was if you missed an attack, you would have a chance to attack back again. But the thing is that in this game, if you missed at all, that means your accuracy is too low.
Yeah.
So
You're a bad.
this game doesn't have the RNG of missing, thank God. That would make the DPS checks even harder. But if you have enough accuracy for that fight, you're never going to miss. So they would have to repurpose Zanshin in a different way, I think.
So would you prefer to see samurai as a DPS and as a tank, Nika?
So, I don't know, because I've been saying that the only job that would ever get me to switch off of Paladin would be Samurai if it came to the game. And honestly, I don't know if I care which one, if it was a DPS or a tank. Because if it's a tank, great, then I can keep the same role in my party. But if not, like I've loved doing damage as a Samurai in 11, and I'm sure I would love it here.
I was gonna say, I feel like you would want it to be a tank more than a DPS, because you're obviously one of the prime tanks for your raid static. And if Sam came out, I don't think that you would get to play it as often as what you'd like to in an endgame instance, because then you're taking away one of the primary roles that you need for a raid.
Yeah, especially because the only other person in our group that wants the tank would be a healer, and I really doubt Samurai would be a healer. So
Yeah.
I don't think we have any DPS in our group that would want to be a tank. So
yeah, I hope in that case, for your sake, that when Sam does come out, it is a tank. Otherwise, I don't think you'll be seeing much of it in endgame raiding, unless, like you said, you can convince somebody else to step up and do the tanking.
Right, but I don't think we're going to see Samurai before 4.0.
No.
So in that case, I mean, what my raid group did last time is when 3.0 jobs were announced, we all kind of said what we were interested in maybe switching to, and then seeing who would switch around. Because actually, one of we had a DPS switch to a tank, and our tank switched to a DPS. So we just kind of talked about what we'd want to do. So I think if that happened, if they did release Red Mage and Blue Mage, I'm sure we would have some people who would want to switch to those two. And so in the end, it might still work out. But it depends too, because you're right though. I can't think of any other job that would be a tank that anyone else might want to switch to. Like some people were saying in the chat that they'd like to see a light armor tank like a dancer. But I don't know. Could a dancer be a tank?
I don't know about that.
No, I can see Dancer as a tank.
I mean, because Dancer was a great soloer in 11 if they subbed Ninja and they had all the blinking and things like that and the support.
Yeah, but thematically, a dancer as a tank, that's so dumb.
No, because, okay, here's how it would work. Dancer grabs all the aggro from bad guys because they're dancing, they're doing flashy moves, they're being a general annoyance, so all the monsters want to hit that person, and they keep themselves alive through evasion-y moves where they don't get hit, and then when they do get hit, they heal it back off, and so they're like an evasion hybrid healer tank, which is what Paladin should have been, like a healer tank, but they kind of dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think Dancer has room to be a tank through mechanics, but I don't think we have much hope for a Dancer.
Yeah, Dancer would probably be, since we don't have a support class role in this game, it would probably end up as a healer.
Like a melee range sort of healer, which is actually Satori.
Which is interesting.
Satori was actually the one who posited this idea to us, would be a melee range healer, which is essentially how they were in Final Fantasy XI.
Well, actually, I don't know if I agree with it being a melee though, because back in Final Fantasy Tactics, like their abilities were such AOE that you could hit a monster from anywhere on the map. So I could actually see them being a ranged healer, just like normal, because they could just do like their little step moves from wherever they want.
Well, sure, you wouldn't want to limit them necessarily on the battlefield to where they have to be running back and forth to get from the ranged DPS up to like by the tanks and the melees. But maybe whatever resource they end up using, maybe they have to be near the monster and they have to be hitting it to build up those resources.
I don't know. I'm still holding out that Chemist is going to be a ranged healer.
Chemist would be another one. Mm-hmm. How do you see that working though?
They wouldn't do disposable items. They would have to be abilities that pretended to use items.
Something like a mix ability, like what Riku and FF10 uses.
Yeah.
Actually, they could do that and have it like be kind of like the Mudra system, where you just like take one of or like two of three different like combinations and turn it into something. That could
Yeah, I
actually
think
work.
a lot of your abilities would probably be along the lines of Mudra. You wouldn't have a lot of, I mean, you'd have some, but you wouldn't have a lot of flat out damage attacks. You'd have like 5 or 6 different, like, let's mix these together, and you'd use them in certain orders to create different things.
I think that the Mudra thing, it's not something that I would say was revolutionary, but it was something new to FF14. It was a lot of fun as a ninja, and I think that that idea is something that SE could definitely expand upon with a new class and do a lot of really fun stuff with, especially if you added in certain levels of randomness, like with an astrologian. Do like an astrologian meets a ninja's mudras. I think that that would make Chemist into a really cool, really unique job that also had sort of like a mad scientist vibe to it.
Just see the kind of gear that you've got. It's just a lab coat and crazy hair.
That would be freaking awesome. Yeah, like instead of just having like 4 or 5 like what would be the mudras for ninja, like you have these different ingredients, right? Components, right? But each of them has a trait to it. So you have like a healing one, you have a defensive one, you have an offensive one, and you just mix those things together. So when you put together like the healing and the defensive one, there's like 3 different things that it could end up being. Maybe it's just one straight up powerful heal. Maybe it's like a mini heal with a defensive buff, you know? And so that way when you're mixing these things together, you don't necessarily know exactly what you're gonna get. But I think that would be really cool. And of course, you have to have that 1% chance that whatever you're about to make is going to fail horribly and wipe everybody.
No.
Yes, because RNG.
Because RNG and mad scientist.
No, but the thing is they would never take you if that was the case, because no other healer has that as a thing. So
Well,
they would say, why would we risk that 1% chance when we could take any other healer and that wouldn't happen?
Then they're a
so
bunch of bitches.
The trade-off is what 1% of the time you get trio of 9999, and you get all your attacks do 9,999 damage.
Then you would only ever take them.
No, it would be like a 1% chance you'd have a full heal on everybody or something like that.
No, I like trio of 9999 better.
I mean, I could see that. I guess you have a 1% chance of wiping everyone with like 0 heals and everyone dies, or a 1% chance of healing everyone to full. That would be okay, maybe.
Oh, so it's okay if there's a 1% chance that you're OP, but it's not okay if there's a 1% chance.
And there has to be a trade-off. And I just don't think that the healer would be the one to make everyone's damage go up. They would heal everyone.
Okay, the trade-off is that you get to be a mad scientist and play with potions. Come on, Mika.
Okay, but I'm thinking about it in terms of progression and endgame. You're not going to take someone who looks cool over someone who is utility.
You have been promoted to intern. You are no longer the endgame progression correspondent, okay?
But I like that title better.
You don't have to pretend to know what you're talking about anymore.
Have you even cleared AS4, bro?
Have you even cleared AS4, brah?
No.
No.
I haven't even cleared AS3, but how about you?
Nah, brah. Well, we don't claim to be the endgame correspondents.
AS3 is hard. and actually, I am telling you, that one, I do feel the gimpness as Paladin. I am pretty much not needed.
You said you felt the gimpness in AS1, AS2.
No, actually, AS2, I would probably always go as Paladin simply for cover. It's actually useful.
Look, you are a Femro Paladin. Even I feel your gimpness.
Oh. No.
Okay.
I just don't want to feel Nika. That's what I go with.
Yeah, I'll stay away from that one. But look how cool I look, and Furion's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Oh jeez.
I forgot I glamored my character.
Oh my gosh.
I could squish you.
Juxta.
You look like Furion. Terrible.
Juxta.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Let's talk about your pride and joy, your love of the FF series, Red Mage.
Dancer? Oh, Red Mage. Right.
Red Mage. You love Red Mage, don't you? Or is it just the idea of Red Mage?
No, I like Red Mage, especially from the glams. I mean, Red Mage glam is A++.
Yeah.
But, okay, I think that Red Mage will likely be the healer, which is unfortunate because I think Red Mages really deserve a time to be the top DPS in a game.
They have a lot of opportunity to make it a magic DPS, though.
I'd say a hybrid where it's like they use their swords to do damage and stuff, but they also cast spells and actually do stuff with spells too. So they'd have to use MP and TP. That's what I would hope for the class. And make it be like Dark Knight, where they like have activated abilities that drain MP, and then like when you want to turn off your end spell, which drains your MP, then you switch to being more physical based and do like wasp sting, which puts like a poison debuff and shit like that.
I think that would be awesome, and it would make it a DPS. It wouldn't be a healer if that was the case.
Oh no, I agree. I'm saying this is what I would hope for if it was a DPS, but knowing
Okay.
Square Enix, it's gonna be a healer.
Yeah, the idea, I think what we need, right, and I know I'm going to get slated by everyone for this, and to be honest, there is a small part of me that sort of fears this inevitability, because when it usually happens in an MMO, this is where you get into a whole different realm of possibilities and balance issues. But I think that we finally need a true hybrid for the game. Okay, and I think that Red Mage is the prime candidate for that. Okay, I think putting them in a support-like role, giving them stances that change whether or not they have the ability to tank, DPS, or do heals, right? And what I would say is put them in the DPS role. Like if you're going to put them as any one role, okay, like DPS would be their primary role, all right? They have the abilities to do spells from far away or go up closer and do, melee DPS using stuff similar to what Juxa just said, right? But I think giving them stances that last, let's say, 30, 45 seconds, all right? So they're not going to be a true tank. You can't sub them out for a paladin. They're not going to be a true healer. You can't sub them out for a white mage or an astrologian, right? But give them the ability that if your tank goes down, they can pop this stance, and for 30 or 45 seconds, yeah, they can stand up.
I love that idea.
They can stand up and they can tank something for that amount of time, given the right support, so that it gives you enough time to get your tanks back up and get back into a position to hold on to stuff. So that way, as a hybrid, you're not running into the situation where it's like, oh, well, if you have the choice between someone who can heal or someone who can tank, DPS, and heal, you're always going to bring the hybrid, because that's one of the problems that WoW ran into with all of their hybrids. But give them a very limited window where they can do those things, I think is the right way to control it, and I think you're finally then putting Red Mage into a position in a game where it can finally shine as a jack of all trades, master of none.
That is exactly where I was going when I was talking about the way that they need to design raid mechanics to allow for things like that to happen. Because I love that idea. However, I do think that if it becomes down to the situational things, like I was talking about, you have DPS go down, allow your paladin to buff itself and keep going for a little bit. If Red Mage is a DPS role and they keep DPS checks the way they are, if Red Mage has to stop DPSing, you're going to fall behind in that DPS check. So again, I think they'll have to reevaluate their raid mechanics to have more of a soft DPS check to allow that to happen. But that is the perfect solution to what I was going for before. I love that idea.
Juxta, thoughts?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. But I think when you pop that stance, it should be 30 seconds or so, right? More than enough time to do whatever they need to do. But they also, it should be on a long cooldown, like 3 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes, something long. But when they're in that stance, they are better than like any tank is right now. Like, it should be like they have like innate 75% damage reduction and crazy hate mechanics where they always get hate until it wears off. Or as a healer, they should just like be pumping out like crazy, like 800 potency cures for that 30 seconds or something. Something that's just like so unbelievably good that they like just blow everything else out of the water. That's what I would want to see. Otherwise, like, I don't see myself ever using it unless it was like a super like necessity type of thing.
Well,
And
what's your reasoning behind you wanting it to be so overpowered? Because at that point, if it's absolutely better than all of the tanks, you would actually get to a point where, especially in progression rating, that I think it would be a necessity to always have that.
Well, he's
red
going to be a
mage.
5-minute cooldown or something. Like that's Hallowed Grounds cooldown. So I mean, that could allow for different types of strategies where like maybe you start with the red mage as the tank, or you start with something to allow the tank to, I mean, especially if warriors are so OP with their damage, you could like have the red mage start out and then swap tanks after 30 seconds or something. Or maybe there's a certain mechanic where, you know, like the warrior can't survive, so you swap to the red mage, allow them to absorb that mechanic, and then swap back. Or like or if it's maybe less detrimental to let a DPS die rather than the tank die, you switch to the red mage, let them take the hit and suicide themselves, and then switch back to the warrior and raise the red mage. I think that allows for a lot of different kinds of strategy.
It does, but I think in that case then, if it's going to be so overpowered, because I think at that point, especially in progression rating, you're always going to want to use that cooldown for something. It would basically end up being, I think, like the Bloodlust of Final Fantasy XIV. Would those stances, being on a long cooldown, I agree, do you think that they should also then share a cooldown?
Probably. You'd have to choose if
Yeah.
you wanted to be the OP tank or the OP healer. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah, I could see that being a fine thing. And see, like... Keep going, I forgot what I was going to go.
But yeah, no, I personally, and I honestly just, you know, all that Sam stuff I gave, you know, previous thought to, but that red stuff just came out of nowhere for me. I think that is probably one of the best places to put a red mage in, and like I said, it really gives it a chance to shine as that jack of all trades, master of nuns. It also would put in the first true hybrid class, but in a way that sort of saves you from all of the balance issues that most MMOs run into in the case of the hybrid classes, because it can't truly replace anything.
Right, because I think a lot of people's worries, like what they had talked about hybrid classes before, but I mean, if you have a true DPS healer hybrid, it's never going to be better than any other DPS or better than any other healer, so what's going to make you want to take it is the problem, because it's not going to keep up with DPS checks, it's not going to keep up with healing checks. What do you do with a job like that? You're right, I think this is an interesting and probably a pretty good solution to that.
And as far as DPS goes, because you want it to be a master of none, but it still has to, I think, be able to keep up with other regular DPSs.
Yeah.
So obviously you wouldn't take a hit there, but like Juxta said, giving it either an ability similar to melee red mage is what you always hear. So I think that the majority of people are going to expect it to be a melee class, like primarily that's where it gets like the most of its damage pumped out, and you know, get like you said, giving it spell blades and stuff like that would be really, really cool. And then giving it an ability similar to, actually I don't think anybody has this, but basically reverse what's the black mage ability called, where they stand still, they can keep casting with the haste or whatever.
The ley lines.
Yes, the ley line. So give them ability that they're able to basically run and gun with spells. You know, they can go back, they can get out of the fight, up out of melee range, and they can actually start using spells that way. I don't know if it should be another stance, or if it should just be like a straight buff that lasts 30 seconds, and for those 30 seconds, they do extra damage or whatever. But I think that you would have to give them the choice, or at least the options mechanically, between actually doing damage up front with melee and being able to cast spells.
No. See, what I'm thinking is, as a red mage DPS, you would have your standard 1-2-3 combos that this game is built upon. But then, as you progress in levels, you get things like a Firestarter-esque proc, where once it procs, then you cast whatever spell to come out. So that's how you would balance the melee with the casting. And so with the your melee is like your bread and butter stuff, versus the spells being like procs and bonus things that are instant cast, is what I would picture.
You know what? Yeah, that's cool too. I like that. I like that idea. That way you don't necessarily, because you can cast magic and you're a quote-unquote ranged DPS, doesn't mean that you have to be far away. So yeah, just keep them in melee range and they can still cast those spells. That's really cool.
But the problem is, we all know that Square Enix is unoriginal, and they're going to make Red Mage a healer.
I don't know. I don't think they will.
Man, I can taste it. I can taste it. They're gonna do it.
He can taste it. What does it taste like,
The
Juxta?
thing is,
Tastes
like salt.
yeah.
It tastes a little salty, I think.
I don't know. I feel like Yoshi P and this development team is pretty good at listening to what players want. And they know that so many people, since the beginning of 11 and 14, have wanted a DPS red mage. So I think they might deliver on that.
The problem is that given the 3 classes that were teased before, I cannot see blue mage being a healer.
But
I
okay,
just
but there was a few people in the chat pointing out saying, why do we have to get them evenly? Who says that the next expansion is going to bring a tank, a healer, and a DPS? Why can't it bring 2 DPS and a healer, or 2 DPS and a tank, or something like that?
Well, it can't be any combination of jobs that is going to upset the balance. So,
well, they absolutely did that when they brought out Ninja, and they didn't care.
and what did they say about that? They're not going to do that again. They've straight up said, no, no more.
No, I'm pretty sure the reason Ninja was a special case because I'm almost positive they had Ninja in the works since 1.0, and that's the reason we got it as not an expansion job. I don't ever foresee anyone or Square Enix giving us a job like Ninja again.
That makes sense. And also the other thing you have to keep in mind too is just because they gave us Blue, Red, and Sam on the 18th floor, or was it the 14th floor? 18th floor, right? Doesn't necessarily 100% mean those are the 3 we're going to get. And if they don't make Red Mage a healer, there are obviously still other jobs they can draw upon. I mean, there's
like
Chemist.
Dancer.
There's Dancer. Astrologian isn't something that, the FF lore or history ever really touched on except for in Final Fantasy Tactics, so it could be something completely out of left field.
That's true, but Astrologian has a lot, it draws upon a lot of other jobs. It
does,
has the card mechanic from gambler classes, and it has the time mage-esque with their whatever. Fuck, they have that quick spell move where they just can instant cast spells, and I think they have gravity and all that stuff. So it's kind of like time magey as well.
It is, yeah.
So, yeah, they can obviously make anything work, but at the same time, the only thing that really springs to mind as something that could remotely be healer-y be something like Geomancer, and I don't see them dropping Geomancer anytime soon.
Well, that was actually another one of the ones that I was hoping that we'd see. It doesn't necessarily have to be Geomancer, but just because 11 had it, and I'm more familiar with those mechanics, I think that that's one that could possibly be introduced. Mechanics-wise, I see it working similar to how a shaman does in Final Fantasy, in World of Warcraft, where you drop your little totems or whatever the fuck they end up calling them. You basically drop AoEs on the ground. These are your abilities or your buffs. It would sort of fit into like a supporty kind of role. It could either be a DPS or, yeah, you know what? It could be a healer too, because all the healing jobs that we have right now, they heal from a place of like the light or like the holiness.
Geomancer would use the earth, right?
Exactly. Geomancer would be more closely tied to the earth, and again, just like a shaman is, they heal through more natural kind of means. And the reason that I like this idea is because the mechanics of dropping down AoE buffs or dropping down AoE heals that persist on the battlefield, especially in raiding situations, it would add an entirely new dynamic to the idea of your strategies and how you position yourself. And while that might be annoying for some people, especially like the way that Black Mage use ley lines right now, where they drop them down and then AoEs, oh shit, now I have to move. It could end up being really, really annoying, but I also think that it would add an entirely new layer of mechanics to those kinds of situations.
Maybe. Okay, fill me in, because I stopped playing 11 before Geomancer was released. How did it work in that game? Was it DPS?
I actually don't know how it worked in 11 either.
I mean, was it a DPS or was it a healer?
It was a DPS, wasn't it?
Fuck, I don't know.
Wow, none of us know. That's bad.
I'm pretty sure.
You know who would know? Escalia would know.
Escalia would know. Yes, I'm pretty sure that it was a DPS though,
It was a caster.
Maybe it was just like support, a support
But
caster.
11 had a lot more of the elemental wheel type of things, which I
It
could
did.
see geomancy, like pulling from the earth for this kind, attacking with earth spells or water spells based on, the terrain and that kind of stuff. Which is why it would be difficult to see it as a DPS in this game, but it would be kind of cool if they could implement that somehow.
Well, like I said, even as a healer too, they would work, especially because, like, we were just talking about how, it's hard to imagine any other kind of healers from lore. And while in Final Fantasy Tactics, Geomancer was like a DPS buff, obviously given its background in calling from the earth and being that sort of like shamanistic type thing, there is definitely room for it to be a healer. I mean, if you can take Dark Knight and turn it from a DPS into a tank, why not turn Geomancer into a healer?
Oh, our chat is saying that Geomancer was actually support like Bard was in 11. And
Okay,
it would
makes
summon
sense.
bubbles and have Black Mage type of things and support the party.
Yep.
So,
You know
yeah, it would
what?
have to be totally different in this game.
I think we need to have a healer that's completely out of left field. We need Necromancer healer. And they heal by draining the life force from enemies into the tank.
Or by draining the life from party members into other party members.
Oh, God, no, that would be horrible. With the way that they do AoE and shit in this game, what if you drained at the exact wrong time and everybody died? That would
Get
be horrible.
good!
Get good!
Get good,
horrible.
Nika! You get
Okay,
good.
let's give us a melee healer where you literally have to run up and hit the person with your weapon to heal them.
Stick your hands into the wounds and seal them
The
up.
more cleaves you eat, the more healing you do.
I mean, there have been some games, I think like Tales games and stuff, where you would have like enchanted star rods where you would actually like hit your party members to heal them. That's a thing.
They have that in Final Fantasy V, where the Cure Rod, where you
Oh,
smack
they do.
the,
Yep.
smack the party member.
You're right.
use
So
Cure
it's not 4 and 2 Final
It
Fantasy.
is canon.
It is
It totally
canon.
is. They could do it.
All right, so there are your jobs. Did you guys have any other ones that you could think of that you would like to see in the game?
I'm trying to think back to. Oh, what about something like? I mean, I don't know if mine would be too similar to Blue Mage, but we've seen mine type of job classes in the past before,
Yes.
which mimic
I want-
other jobs are doing, or like do it back at the enemy.
I want to see a mime job, and I don't know how it would work, but story could make it work.
Well, well, it could work into one of two ways. They could have it how you mimic your party members. So you could literally like mimic the healer and heal everyone, or mimic the DPS and do like whatever, or mimic the warrior and do fell cleave. Or it could be where it mimics the enemy, and it would depend on what the move was. I don't think you could mimic like the tank busters back at the enemy, but based on the move, you could mimic certain things back.
So what do you see as the abilities then? Just mimic, and you just have to watch people and be like, oh, there goes Hutan. I need Hutan. Mimic that.
No, I think it would have some of its own native abilities, and then it would have maybe a 30, 45-second move cooldown, or maybe it would have different ones based on, if we make mime a DPS, or a hybrid like Red Mage sort of, it would have a smaller recast where it could mimic DPS moves, so it could do more DPS, and then it would have a larger cooldown on like mimicking a White Mage's move, so then they could mimic, I don't know, like Medica, or they could mimic some Lustrate or something like that, but that would be a longer cooldown or something.
How does that work in combat though? Like paying attention to what moves people are using as you're fighting?
That would be hard.
Okay, no. Here's how it would go. It would have the standard 1, 2, 3, whatever, and then you would have like a cooldown that's on like a 30-second cooldown or something called mime, and what it would do is you would target like a party member, and if the party member was a DPS, like a physical DPS, like the last like move it did, it would be like the mime would do like a physical hit that would do something, or if it was like Black Mage, then it would like beat mime and do like a casting move, or if it was a White Mage, then it would do like a heal or something.
So instead of mimicking their actual move, whatever role the person you're miming fulfills, it would give you a generic ability based on them.
That's the only way it could possibly work.
Mm-hmm. Either that, or similar to how they did Symbiosis for Druid in World of Warcraft, is based on what class you mime, you automatically get access to one of their predetermined abilities.
That could work.
Which is actually really cool. Huh?
So that could work, maybe. I mean, it's a difficult one to flesh out here because, I mean, this game is a lot more fast-paced, where, like, in 11 you can watch for someone's skill chain and try to mimic or something like that. But in this game, everyone's just mashing abilities all the time. So it would be a difficult one to figure out for 14.
Yeah,
I'm sure they could do it, because they can do anything. But I don't think we will because it's too much work.
Also, another thing I think this game is truly lacking, which is what I think everyone wanted for Summoner, is an actual pet job where the pet is the one that does the damage, not the person. And so I think, and I mean, there are people who like that, and I think that's what Summoner should have been in the first place, where the abilities, just to have a different feel for a job. It's not necessary, obviously, but I think that having it as the pet is the one doing the damage, and your abilities are the support for the pet, which would be really cool. So you would have Garuda doing attacks, and all of the abilities that you learn wouldn't be for you, they would be for your pet. So you would learn it's like a slashing attack, and it's, you know, big crazy wind attack, and those would be your main moves you would do as your weapon skills, and then your actual person's abilities would be the support for your pet. I think that would be cool.
I don't think that would ever possibly work though, because the delay between hitting a button for Garuda and then Garuda actually using the move, you know? Like, if your entire combo comes from the pet doing the combo and you have to, like, press the buttons for the pet to do the combo, I don't think that would ever work in this game.
That's true, I suppose. But, I mean, because this game is a lot more fast-paced, but it could also be bigger burst damage. Like 11's, the summoners' pets did everything, and the summoners are practically healers. So you'd summon the pet, you'd have so much of a cooldown, and you'd use a move, but it would be a big burst damage, kind of like Black Mage, how you have to cast everything. So instead of just casting, you would be, you know, telling your pet to use this move, and after the cast bar goes off, the pet uses it. So it would be like Black Mage, but through your pet.
I think that could work. And honestly, the reason I feel that, besides not having giant summons, you know, obviously that's one of the big pet peeves that summoners currently have with the game, is they have these tiny little eggies running around. But they also, you know, don't feel like the pets are that important. And one of the reasons why is, and this is a pitfall from a lot of pet games, is when you put too much emphasis on the pet, they either end up becoming overpowered, or if they're killed or incapacitated in some way, you suffer too much because of it. So I think what you need to do is keep Summoner the way it is, but what you're using should be an extension of the pet, right? So
yeah, Summoner's abilities are totally separate from the pet.
Exactly. So when you use your abilities, the pet uses it, right? But the problem is, don't try to make the pet a character, right? The pet should be your tool. The pet should be your weapon. So
the pet should be an animation.
Yeah, so let it go into the AoE and get hit. Like, if it doesn't die, whatever, okay? Or even make it so that if the pet takes damage, you take that damage. Because that was one of the big things when Summoner was actually useful, being able to tank with Titan, it was overpowered because the Titan Eggy couldn't actually die, right? But if the Summoner took that damage instead of the egg, you know, obviously it should be reduced in some way because the Titan is the tank pet or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it just needs to be reworked. But if you make it so that the summon, the eggy, is the tool, not the pet, I think that could work a lot better.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't even have to be with Summoner. Like the other kinds of pet jobs we've seen in this game, or in Final Fantasy history, like Beastmaster, Puppet Master, that kind of stuff. You could do the same thing, similar to that, like have a Puppet Master with an automaton that's, you know, similar to what we're talking about for Summoner, and use that as your weapon, and that could be cool too.
Yep. Summoner thematically or conceptually definitely needs a big overhaul, I think, to please a lot of people. But as it is right now, it's still very powerful. It's in a good place.
It is powerful. It definitely is a good job. But the thing is that it's not this. It's called Summoner, but the summon, you're right, is less useful. Like your main damage is through AOE DOTs, and I mean it's not called the DOT-er, right? It's called the Summoner, and so it's like I want to do damage with the thing I summon, not with my dots. So
it's like what I said before. They need to just retool Bio 2, Miasma, and Miasma 2 to be moves that you summon, that you like call Ifrit's Burn or Garuda Wind Shear, and it puts like Wind Shear DOT from Garuda on the person, and it's like using Dreadworm stance on how like you're invoking the power of Bahamut, but just for one attack.
And how cool would it be, too, when you use Garuda's Shear, if the animation for that was like a rift opens above the enemy, and Garuda just fucking comes down and like slashes them with her wing, and then disappears and flies off again.
I think
like
Dreadworm
seeing
stance
summons.
is a step.
Yeah. Seeing summons like just come out of nowhere and come down and attack the thing like as you're just fighting in a battle, like that would look so fucking cool.
I think Dreadworm Stance is kind of where Summoner should have started from. So like right now, you do a couple moves in a certain order, you use a certain amount of Ether Flow, you get in Dreadworm Stance, and when you use Akmorn, what would be really cool is, if Bahamut's, at least maybe not Bahamut since you don't own Bahamut, but his essence, you could see like his shadow behind you comes out, you do Akmorn, and bam. And the entire job could be that way. Like maybe you use different abilities in a different order, and that puts you in Garuda Stance, and then you use a big move like Akmorn for Garuda, whatever her big like wind aerial spin move is, and she comes out, does the big spin, and then goes away. I think that would be really cool.
Yep, I think you would at least appease a few more summoners that way. The hardcore ones, especially from 11, who miss having their giant fucking, avatars following them around. I don't think you're going to please them unless you give them back.
Yeah,
but
because
honestly,
in other Final Fantasies, you just summon the summon that doesn't move and goes away. And I think it could work.
I think those people, we just need to lump in over with all the Dragoons who are crying because they can't have their wyverns and forget about them.
The only person I've heard cry about that is Ascalia.
Oh, no, I've heard, there's more of them.
They're out there.
Yep, they're out there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, everyone has the little Midgard Swarmer minion now, and that's close.
That's close,
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So out of those few things that we've talked about, what do you guys, if you had to pick one to be the most likely candidate to be introduced in the game, what would you pick?
Red Mage.
Samurai.
I would probably say, in the capacity that we discussed them, I think that we would see Samurai before Red Mage. But I would prefer to see Red Mage, and I think that if we're gonna get a melee or a DPS Red Mage in any game, in any MMO, this would be the one. Yoshi P is really good at mixing things up, and if we're gonna get them at any point the way that people really want to see them, this would be the one.
True, but I just feel like he's teased at Red Mage and how much Yoshi likes Red Mage in multiple capacities. Samurai wasn't really teased until recently. I feel like he knows that the demand for Red Mage is there, and I honestly think we would see that first.
All right.
I mean, if not at the same exact time, but...
Yep. So biases aside then, we are unanimous Red Mage then, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the best job Final Fantasy 1. That's the linchpin for me. That we're gonna get Red Mage because it's the last job Final Fantasy 1.
Okay, that's fair. And I mean, I still think that before we would get something like Geomancer or Dancer or anything, I mean, they specifically teased Blue Mage, Red Mage, and Samurai. It's going to be one of those that we see, if not all three of them.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
I don't think it's gonna be a DPS though, which is gonna make me sad.
I think it is. I think we're gonna see it as a DPS in this game.
I do too.
Hope that it is, and I wish that it is, but I just don't see it.
I mean, I could see Blue Mage and Red Mage both being DPS, Samurai being a tank, and then them finding something else to be a healer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They could just add a healer. And I don't think anyone would care, because nobody likes healers.
Right, nobody likes healers, yet you have to have them in your party, and they have the most important job, but nobody likes them.
No,
exactly.
We don't like them, we
talking
tolerate them.
Yeah, I mean, healer is the
that's
most
just you
boring
guys.
job. It's the worst job because you don't get to see your own damage numbers go up, and the more gear you get, you don't really see that much of an improvement. Okay. I was gonna.
That's an extremely biased point. I mean, if you think you say it's the most boring job, but if you actually try to heal in something where there's a lot of AOE, like it's not boring. If you're not paying attention, your entire party dies. It's very intense. It's the opposite of boring.
Yeah, who wants that kind of responsibility?
All right, well, for those of you listening, if you have any ideas, thematically, conceptually, or mechanically, how jobs could work in Final Fantasy XIV, we'd love to hear from you. You should email us at hosts@LimitBreakRadio and give us a rundown of what you'd like to see and how you'd like to see them work. Moving on to the next topic on our tinfoil hat edition of Limit Break Radio today is dungeon and trial ideas. And what I thought that we would start with was the one that has been on a lot of people's minds thanks to the teasing or the hint at in the Rising event, and that is Doom Train. There's been a few theories thrown around. Could it be a Hildebred quest? Could it be possible mode of transportation to the Void Ark? Is this something that we're just going to see as a trial where you fight the Doom Train?
Void Ark? The Void Ark's a flying ship. How are you going to ride a train to a flying ship?
Excuse me, it's Doom Train. It can fly wherever the fuck it wants.
That's right. Or could Doom Train end up being a dungeon itself where you fight through the Doom Train? Let's go ahead and open the floor to my right-hand man and our intern.
Okay.
He's actually on your left-hand side.
Is he?
He is.
Okay, my left-hand man.
I'm your right hand. Oh, yeah.
It's a good thing that you got that out before I said what I was gonna say.
Okay, which games have we seen Doom Train in the past? I know we've seen an FF8. What other FF games have we seen?
8 is the one that I'm most familiar with it in, but it's also it's an actual like plot point and boss that you fight in. Is it 5?
I'm trying to remember.
6, but it's
6
actually
has
called
the
the
Phantom.
Yeah.
The Phantom
Yes.
Train.
That's
different.
the one. Mm-hmm.
And
I
Phantom
was
Train is
remembering.
actually in this game already in Castor Meridium, if I'm not mistaken.
Wait, really?
It what?
I believe so. I believe that train is called the Phantom Train, if I'm not
There's a
mistaken. I could
train?
be wrong.
What train?
Well, it's not a train, but it's got the train station, and the train is called the Phantom Train, I think.
In Castrum Meridium? What?
Yeah.
I'm blanking on that
I am
one.
completely drawing a blank. Which Castrum is that?
That's the
That's
first
the one everyone used to spam for philosophy tomes back in the day, like the very first one. And people
Yeah.
in the chat are agreeing. Okay, I'm trying to think. I think there is like signs. I remember seeing like crossroads signs, like train signs, but I don't remember there being an actual. Oh, you go up to the train station and like fight the guys that are like hiding up on the. I remember now when you're like. It's over by the bridge, sort of, and you go across, you sneak around, and then there are these guys you have to pull from up top, right? There's like a dreadnought up there, and then you have to click on the switch up at the train station, right?
I don't think you have to click a switch, but you do have to kill those guys so Sid walks with you. But yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
I ever
it's like
realized
Jesus
that was a
Christ
train
says.
station.
You know,
the train supplies all the castrums.
yeah. Now that you think about it, like that's something I never made a connection to. But yeah, you're right. That's why it was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, see? I know what the fuck I'm talking
Okay,
about.
but is
I'm
that-
up on my FF14 lore. Thank you very much.
But do they actually ever name the train,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do at some point.
or is it just the Castrum Express?
The Castrum Express. All aboard the Castrum Express!
Because I think having it is kind of like in FF6, you actually went on the train, right, and you fought through it, and
Yeah,
there were different,
yeah.
and there were
And
ghosts
then you
and
fought
skeletons.
it, and then you had Sabin suplex it.
But like in FF8 with Doom Train, you actually fought the train as the boss, right?
Right.
No,
So-
you don't fight the Doom Train in FF8. You just get him as a summon.
Oh, right, and yeah, you just go on a quest for it.
Right.
Yep.
I'm looking at a screenshot where they're most definitely fighting him. Oh no, never mind. They're summoning him and fighting him
Yeah,
against somebody
they're
else. You're right.
Oh, it's
it.
almost exactly what I said. Huh, interesting.
Okay,
Funny
so
if that
you just-
works.
So you don't actually have to fight it as a boss, but it's weird looking. Is there any FFs you do fight it?
I don't think so. I think.
I
Doom
think we
Train
can-
might only be an 8.
I feel like we can safely say that Phantom Train is Doom Train. They just changed the name, but it's the same damn thing. It's a
But
fucking
Doom
ghost
Train has
train.
a skull on the front, and Phantom Train just looks like a train, and it just has ghosts on it.
Okay,
it's
because I'm
different.
sure if you take every iteration of Bahamut, they all look exactly the same, don't they?
But they look very
They're all-
similar. This just looks like a train. Doom
Yeah.
Train is like orange and it like has teeth on the side of it, and like has a skull in the front. It's way different.
Yeah, and FF Wiki also says that it's Doom Train and Phantom Train are two different things, and Doom Train only exists in 8.
Huh.
Okay, so that's very interesting that they would tease at Doom Train over all the things when it's only been in one.
I don't know. I'm gonna say to me, I'm sorry. They're the same sort of concept. Okay. Sorry.
Well, it's
I
the
could-
same concept because they're both fucking trains.
Exactly.
No, I could see us. Let's see, because Siren was only a summon in 8 too, wasn't it? Or in
No, Siren's in tons of them.
Yeah.
Siren's in 5, 6,
Okay.
8.
Well, okay, that's true. I'm thinking like they put Siren as a boss at the end of Pharaohs, and like Diablos was a boss at the end of Lost City. I bet they could make a Phantom Train, Doom Train type of dungeon where like the train is the boss at the end.
Yeah. I mean, maybe what it is. All right. First of
I hate
all,
that because it's dumb, but
what I think is most likely for Doom Train is it being in a Hildebred quest, and for two reasons. First of all, the idea of a Doom Train or a Phantom Train is something that's very mysterious, you know, something that has something to it that needs to be solved, which is right up Hildebran's alley, okay? and it's fucking absurd. The idea of a fucking like ghost train that's again silly.
It's the same thing as like a phantom ship or a ghost pirate ship where you find the ship kind of floating out on the ocean and it's filled with the ghosts and skeletons of pirates.
Exactly.
I don't think this is any more absurd than that.
It's right up Hildebrand's alley, okay? I think that this would work perfectly for him. And I think that I don't know if it would work best as just a straight up trial where you fight the train itself, because I can't envision that, you know, like a train that just sits there or that moves around like as an actual battlefield. I can't envision that. Right, but actually going into the Doom train and it being more of a dungeon, or maybe even like a 5-car 5-battle trial, I think that makes more sense. And instead of fighting Doom Train himself, you board the Doom Train, and at the end, when you get up to the engine,
you find Gilgamesh, who was riding it to find the Excalibur.
Oh my god.
Okay,
you fight whoever the conductor is.
Wait, what if you have to run along the top of the Doom Train and you have to try not to fall off? Because if you fall off and fall off the train, you die. So you have to fight stuff on top of the trains.
And then Kooky Persona says at the end, you still get Godbert suplexing it.
Well, that is a very important part of Final Fantasy VI lore, is Sabin suplexing the Doom Train. Or Phantom Train. Okay, but that might be, and if I think it's anything battle-related, I think we're going to actually see Godbert suplexing the Doom Train. But we keep in mind that the spoiler was for a Doom Train minion. So I am holding fast to my theory that Doom Train is the end boss of the Pets of Vermilion minigame.
It could be, because they said, the guy was surrounded by minions, and he said, where did I put that clockwork Doom Train? And he was surrounded by a bunch of minions. And since Verminion is that new game that we're getting, or whatever, that would make sense.
How much of a letdown would that be, though?
Well, why are you trying to build him up to be something huge and big? He just said a clockwork
he's huge
minion.
and big in FF8.
Yeah, he's cool. He's a cool guy.
Or and then the clockwork Doom Train could be that 1% drop minion from the end of the trial.
Yeah.
No.
That Nika never gets.
I never get.
Or a card. No, it should be a card.
Yeah, of course.
1% card drop that she never gets.
Oh, yep. Actually, I finally got the Onion Knight card from World of Darkness, though.
Woo!
Finally.
Do you have Midgar Stormer yet?
I have that. It was Nidhogg that I don't have.
Oh, Nidhogg, yeah.
I still don't have Nidhogg.
Do you have Midgar Stormer? I have him. I don't know where he comes from.
I do. Midgard Stormer comes from getting 90 cards.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I have that one.
All right, fine. So Juxta thinks it's just going to be a boring-ass fucking minion. Nika, what do you think? You think it's more likely to be like a trial or a possible dungeon?
Yeah, I think it would be a trial, and then it would have the minion as the slight drop, because they are kind of into the whole new dungeons drop really rare minions, and I could totally see this being that.
I think Kooky has the right idea. Doom Train Mount.
Where you're inside the train, or you're sitting on top of it.
It would be like those little kids trains at the mall.
But with the skull on the front.
Yeah, mini Doom Train. That'd be awesome.
What's your thought, Kala? What do you think it's going to be?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think that there was probably enough evidence in the Rising to suggest that it's going to be any kind of event. It probably will just end up being a fucking pet, which is dumb. But I personally think that it would make a great Hildebrand questline.
Scooby-Doo Hildebrand?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, I do think Godbert suplexing the train is really funny. And you can, we're all down for the count, and Hildebrand's there, and we're all, the train's about to run us over, and then in comes Godbert, who suplexes the train out of the way. But I could totally see that happening.
That would be amazing. So what other kinds of possible dungeons or trial encounters, then, would you guys want to see from FF lore? I see someone put something on this list in all caps with a little cat smiley face at the bottom that says Anima.
Yes, Anima is so freaking awesome. And if you think of Anima in FF10's lore, how it was, spoilers, if any of you haven't played FF10, I'm going to spoil for you, turn it now, that Anima was the spirit of Seymour's dead mother that he tried to summon back to life. I think that...
Spoilers!
spoilers. I think that would be totally badass if that was somehow worked into the primal lore, right? Because that's how primals pretty much are in this game. So if, say, Anima is, the reincarnated something or other in the lore that, tried to bring back to life when it went horribly wrong, and then you get this really deformed Anima summon, or like primal fight. I think that would be sweet.
That would actually be a very cool way to bring Anima into it. It could also be extremely sad and dark.
Yes.
In fact, I got it.
Tamtara Extreme.
Yes. The two people who survived, no wait, only one person survived it now, right? Of that original party, isn't there just one survivor left?
Yeah, the Taru.
Yeah, the Taru.
The Taru should attempt to summon back, what's her name, Edea? Edda. Should attempt to summon back Edda, right? And like the other people, because now they're going crazy, racked with all this guilt, right? And yeah, you basically get this terribly disformed amalgamation of all of their party members that, were murdered, committed suicide or whatever. And yeah, holy fuck. That could go really fucking dark. Like, we thought Tamtara, hard mode already was already really kind of dark and scary. Yoshi P, if he went this route, he could really turn the heat up, and that could be a really fucking amazing end to that saga. Yes.
That would be sad. Zilia says maybe Anima could be something the Warrior of Darkness summons.
That's very possible, too, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because that would be interesting, because I think Anima would have to be in a darker part of the story. It would be a lot harder to bring that in as just a regular, Ravana is here. It would be something darker in the lore.
Kiki Lukilu says, Anima is hearts and farts.
We've discussed that I think if Hearts and Farts was to be summoned as a primal, it would end up as Ixion.
Yes, or Ixion,
yes. Since their house is the unicorn.
Goiku Star 7, at the end of Tamtara, she actually lets herself fall off of the platform into the
suicides.
darkness.
She jumps off, and then you see her ghost randomly pop up around the towns if you catch it.
Yep. So what I'd like to see, and this is something that I've kind of been silently, or I guess I mean to do it on the show occasionally, but what I've been pushing for when it comes to raid mechanics and trial mechanics is I want to see stuff that's a bit more dynamic, and I want mechanics that aren't just about memorization, something that you have to react to in the moment. And I think that two possible trials that could play into this as strengths would be Kate Sith or the Magus Sisters. And basically the way that what I mean by this is when you go into it, you're not just going to get the exact same battle every single time where it's like, all right, the boss will use this move, and then this move, and then this move, and watch for this, and this is phase 1, blah, 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 blah. So Kate Sith, for example, could possibly summon random bosses from different dungeons or trials, but are, of course, now level appropriate. Maybe they have different mechanics, maybe they have the same ones, but basically every time you go in there, Kate Sith draws upon your past experiences, or, uses them as, things that you've triumphed over, and, now you have to do it again, but it's harder. And basically it's a way to sort of mix it up, and I think that could be really interesting. Or the Magus Sisters would be similar, where either every time that you go in, you either fight them in a different order, or I don't know, they just combined in a way, or maybe you only fight 2 of them, and based on which ones you fight, they have different movesets. Just that idea of needing to respond and change to things in the moment instead of just memorizing it, for me, is a lot more entertaining, and as a player, it's a lot more enticing than just, all right, let's smash our face against Bismarck Extreme and Ravana Extreme over and over and over again. It's the exact same thing. Why the fuck haven't you people got this yet? Learn to get out of the fucking AoE and not kill the goddamn water balls! Fuck!
Someone's salty, I see.
Unless it's water weather, then you kill them.
Unless it's water weather.
I do think they had the right idea with what was that dungeon that has it's Wanderer's Palace Heart, I think, that has that mid boss where you have the different colored circles on the ground. And every time you enter the dungeon, the circles do different
sort of,
things.
yeah.
I mean, that was the start. So it's like, everyone wants the damage up. You don't want to turn into a frog, and you have to run into them all and figure it out, and it's not going to be the same every single time. So at least that, that's a start. Or like the research facility has the one that turns into old coil bosses that only has, one mechanic of that coil boss. I think that would be really cool, but harder. It would have to be an entire primal fight. It couldn't be part of a dungeon, I think.
Right. No. Yeah, I agree. I think that the Magus sisters, Kate Sith, would definitely be primal things.
Well, although we've seen Kate Sith as part of the Void Arc in a little teaser screenshot, though.
We have. That's true. That's true. Excited for that.
Yeah,
And you know what? I actually just saw for the first time yesterday the original opening cutscene for 1.0. I don't know how it's been this long or whatever. And so I finally got to see what we've talked about before, where when Midgar Stormer and the Agrius crash into Crystal Tear Lake, and you actually see Ifrit and Titan like shooting up out of the lake. Like that, those are the what we assume are the primals being freed from some type of, I don't know, maybe Alec prison down there. There was a shit ton of those lights coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
There were a fucking ton of them. I mean,
Yeah.
like we can count how many primals we've fought like on two hands, and there was a shit ton. So there's room for absolutely massive amounts of primals in this game. Juxta, did you have any ideas or any theories or any kinds of not even necessarily primal trials, but even dungeons that you would like to see remade into FF14?
Well, everyone knows that Case is already in the game. It's the
stop it.
Alumagabi's
Oh my
little
gosh!
pet.
Stop
What?
that.
It's true.
It's not. No.
That's
It's just a cat.
that's my headcanon. It's Kate Sith.
But we know Kate Sith is going to be tied to Void Arc somehow. They've showed the screenshot.
And they're going to have Alexander tied into Void Arc, you
I
see?
don't think. Because
Kate Sith
Alexander
is the
has to do with
bridge.
Sarlayan, and the Void Arc is going to be something to do with Alien or something old and ancient that's not Charlayan.
Just you wait. Kate Sith will lead us to the Void Arc.
Well, yeah, well, that is possible, but it is not the cat from Alexander.
Juxta, did you have anything serious or productive to add?
I think during the Magus Sisters fight, it should be. This is how I picture it going out. It's going to be a three-person fight, 3 mobs that you have to deal with all at the same time, and the fat one is always going to be reflected, so you can't cast on it because it'll bounce back at you.
Mm-hmm.
And like the little one will probably be tanked by like some DPS or something, or maybe it has random aggro or something, and you have to keep on killing it. But the fat one will obviously res it each time, and you hear like the main force will be divided between the tall one and the fat one, I feel. And that's all I got so far for that.
I like it though, because primarily, yeah, the fat one I feel like should have reflect on. I do like the idea of the small one, which is usually looks like a B, or at least in FF10 it was a B. So not having an aggro table or having to be tanked by a DPS because she deals lighter damage, I think that sounds like a cool idea. And yeah, I feel like the tall one would be the main one that you would have to focus on or put your tanks on. Or they could make it a 3-tank fight. How cool would that be?
That'd be awful.
I'm trying to
That would
think
be
of,
awful.
Do you know how the rage people would have if suddenly after like 2 years of having 2 tanks for everything, they're suddenly like, oh hey, have a 3rd tank now? People would flip their shit.
yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of previous Final Fantasies and what different types of dungeons they had. So that's why I think Phantom Train, Doom Train would be the coolest addition that they could probably throw back to FF6.
Mm-hmm.
This would probably piss people off with gear inventory space, but like it wasn't in FF9 there was a dungeon where you had to have your lowest level gear to do the most damage, so like everything was the opposite.
Yeah.
Was there?
There
Yeah.
was.
It's
It
like
was near,
Olivert or something?
yeah, I can't remember, but I know that the higher your gear, the less damage it did. And
Is
you had
that
to
why that
hold
place
onto
was
it.
so hard?
Yeah, you had to hold on to all of that stuff.
I don't ever remember changing my gear in that place.
I wouldn't have known, but I had a strategy guide because I was lame. And
No,
they said hold on to your level 1 weapon because you'll need it later. It's like, okay.
Well, no, it's not even that, because you get all the old weapons in that dungeon. It was pissing me off.
Oh, that's true.
So I didn't get the mechanic either.
That is hilarious.
Or maybe something like, I know this, the problem with this game, which, I mean, everyone likes the faster dungeons, fast. Like, everyone hates getting things like Stone Vigil on Leveling Roulette because it's so long. But I feel like something like, FF10's dungeons were all about solving puzzles. And I feel like less mobs and more puzzles. Like, also, what was it in 11? Was it Nizal Isle, or the one where you'd climb the floors and you'd have different puzzles?
Yeah.
I think that if there was more things like you'd have to, like FF10, you had to take a sphere and ride a thing around and find where the sphere goes, or like light lamps in certain order. Having a thing where you'd have to work together with your team, I think could be cool, as long as the
something that's more dynamic. That's more reliant on you solving puzzles or doing certain mechanics as opposed to just as much DPS as you can while avoiding damage.
Yeah,
One
so
encounter-
Yeah, go ahead. Nope, go ahead.
I was gonna say one encounter that I remember in World of Warcraft it was like basically an arena fight where like the aggro tabers were all off the charts. Like they basically went after whoever they wanted to go after, and each there was like 5 ads, and each ad was like based on like a different class, but it was always different each time you loaded the instance. So
you're talking about the dungeon version of the Northrend Coliseum, right?
Actually, I'm talking about the Isle of Quel'Danas. There was a dungeon.
Oh?
There was a dungeon in there. But yeah, but basically, it was like a Wolves Den match, and there would be like a specific party set up, and each time you went in there, it was a different set of four basically player characters, and you had to like basically PvP them down, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it would basically kind of be like the end of Holly Tally Hard mode, but there would be more variety to it.
Yeah, because like that, you just fucking AoE them down.
Well, yeah, now you can just use limit break
they
and kill
die
them all
so
too.
quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I would like to see as a dungeon, which I think going forward, we haven't obviously gotten any new dungeons yet in Heaven's Ward, but rather than seeing old stuff remade into hard modes, I'd like to see more original stuff to help expand more on the Heaven's Ward lore and whatnot. I would like to see a Chocobo Forest dungeon.
Oh.
Something that's more akin or reminiscent of Final Fantasy IX's Chocobo lore. You know, where you're going into the Chocobo Forest. You know, it's kind of like this sort of magical, mystically sort of place where you either have to use the Chocobos like to help you in some way, or maybe there's a narrative element to it that involves like a Moogle and a Chocobo. I think that would be really sweet.
Chocomog. Mm-hmm. That was a thing.
Chocomog is a thing. I was just thinking about the other day. That's a primal I want to see. I want to see Chocomog primal.
Yeah, because we got the fat chocobo as a mount, so now give us like the primal chocobo.
We have Mog in the game.
Are you like good King Mogumog? Is that what you mean?
No, well, I mean, we have Moogles in the game, but also the Moogles up in whatever horrible place that is, Churning Mist.
Yeah, no, I know we have Moogles, but I want like a primal team up between a primal Moogle and a primal Chocobo.
Oh.
Maybe there's some like fairy tale out there about, you know, when a Moogle first met a Chocobo, and you know some children somewhere in some orphanage, you know, accidentally summon it, and you know. Come on,
I'm gonna say
really
Archchat
cool.
is horrible. They're saying they want me to go there because I'll have to kill chocobos.
Yes, if they do come out with a Chocobo Forest and there's Chocobo enemies in it, we will make sure that Nika does her first run live on stream with us. Nika, promise it.
I promise.
All right, and we'll make
Man,
fun of it.
I can't express my disappointment that we cannot kill chocobos and then harvest their wings and drumsticks and make KFC out of them.
And send
Oh
them
my
to Nika.
gosh. No. They do have chocobo like legs or flanks or they
It
have
was
something.
for a quest.
Oh.
It's not
You know-
real food. I looked it up. I was going to send you a lot of them.
Yeah, that makes sense because I'm surprised that you didn't. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know what we're forgetting though is in the Rising event how they mentioned some evil would bring together the behemoth and the bomb or whatever. So like if we had a bomb king type of thing, I don't know. We still haven't quite figured out what that was supposed to be.
No, I
considering
haven't.
There is a king behemoth in Labyrinth of the Ancients.
Yeah, I haven't really seen much of anything else theory-wise pop up about that. So, I mean,
I thought we decided that was definitely the super
What was that?
primal
Belias.
bomb
No,
behemoth.
There was that Belias, whatever it's called, that looks like a behemoth and a whatever. But I don't know much about that. Although in FF12, all of the primals in FF12 were like originals, weren't they? Or they were just coming from different
the
parts
fake,
of lore.
fake summons is what I
Yeah,
call
so I
them.
wonder.
Not
Because
my
in-
summons.
In FF12, all the ships were named after the primal names and the summon
Yeah.
names, and the summons that you got were actually like totally new, and I don't remember any of them. They were so not memorable. But I
Yeah.
feel like they could always pull from that.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the primals in FF12 was Queekin, and that's from Final Fantasy Tactics, and as one of the crystal horrible guys you have to fight. So, and I thought, aren't the some of the Asians named after that? I think there's a Belias Asian, isn't there? Or am I making that up?
No, they talk about Belias in one of the summoner quests. I think.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
There's a hint for that, but I don't think that the Asians or Alligans have names like.
No,
make that up.
none of that sounds familiar to me. You know.
Yeah, no.
No.
Well,
But-
fine.
I'd also like to see Yojimbo come back somehow.
Yeah. Oh, what if? Okay, Yojimbo has a Japanese name, so let's say maybe it's for Doma or from
Alamigo.
Little Alamigo. Like, what if there were some crazy monks who, as I talked about the lore of Alamigo a little bit on an episode a while back, who were still worshiping the king who slaughtered all the monks, and they like worship him back into a primal. That could be like.
Have they
Yojimbo.
named that king at all yet?
Yes, I don't remember his.
Oh, so
exact-
he's probably not going to be
Yeah.
Yojimbo.
No,
I
but the thing is that when you wish them back into primals, they're not necessarily their same exact like. I mean, I don't know. They're not.
Maybe
I don't
there's
know.
some wandering primal called Yojimbo that seeks out specific kinds of prayers. You know,
I mean,
such as
especially because like Leviathan merged with the Sahagin, so I could see like if Yojimbo was an entity that he could like merge somehow with some dude or another. And Yojimbo is a samurai, right? So
Yeah.
he could somehow.
Carletta
go
mentions
that lore.
that Yojimbo could be the NPC for the samurai. Maybe
No, that's-
Yojimbo is the one who teaches
NPC,
you.
though? But I mean, Yojimbo in all of FF has always been like a battle or a primal, or I can't see him being like an NPC you talk to and he's like, "Let me teach you the ways of samurai." Although
Orange
then again, he
Buds-
was always kind of like a nicer one, wasn't he?
Orange Bud says Yojimbo in 4.0. Yugiri mentioned something about having primals where she comes from, but they call them something different. So maybe, you know, like you said,
Oh,
Yojimbo
so maybe
being
like
more
from Doma.
Japanese. Yeah, it could be something from Doma or whatnot. I like that basically all the or most of the stuff that we've suggested for new dungeons and trials primarily have came from FF10.
I mean,
I think that Yojimbo is going to be a foil to Gilgamesh.
Yeah, because in FF10 wasn't Yojimbo like really silly too? Like he had that dog, right? And you'd like pay him gil to do things or something like that.
I don't think
Like-
he was silly. He still had like a pretty serious motif going on.
Well, when you summoned him, you would like
You
only
would pay him
dog
gil, though,
pay-
yeah.
You had like he only worked for you because you gave him money.
Yeah.
So like I
He's a
could see
mercenary.
him being something. He could be the Hildebrand type of thing, maybe.
Oh, I feel like if they made him silly, well, or if he was a foil to Gilgamesh, he would
He doesn't
basically
have to be silly, but he could be the serious version. but,
right.
like,
So
take money.
he would be to Gilgamesh what that stupid Elvon is to Hildebrand, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could see
Ah,
that working. That would be cool.
And then Gilgamesh has Enkidu, and then Yojimbo has his little dog.
Has his dog, which hopefully we can get as a pet,
Could be a minion, or yeah, I don't know.
or a mount.
I'll say no. It's too small to be a mount, but I guess it could be.
So next up, then on our tinfoil hatting is
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna stop for a second. What exactly does tinfoil hat mean?
um.
You keep saying this, and I honestly God, I've never heard this phrase until you
You've
said
never
it.
heard the phrase? Yeah, it's like when in TV shows or in movies when you get like these conspiracy theory nuts who's like, oh, we have to wear tinfoil hats so that the aliens can't steal our thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
so
It's really
tin-
confusing. Like, why are we... I was thinking like something to do with the television antennas, like how you have to like make them get the channels properly.
No,
You, like, put
you wear the
tinfoil.
tinfoil hat so that the aliens can't steal your thoughts. So we're talking about like theories and
that's-
stuff regarding what could possibly be put
For some
in.
reason,
so.
I was just thinking of like restaurants that like make you tinfoil hats when it's your birthday and stuff. I'm like, I was so confused.
You get
Okay,
so bad
there
at
was my
this.
dirt moment of the day. Continue.
All right,
Alright,
so
thank you for that derail, Escalia.
You're welcome.
In other news, yes, Merwib is no longer a Mikote.
She is Fantasia now that it's Scully.
So Po Rangatang in his email wrote that in regards to job-specific encounters, This is something that Aniro lightly touched upon once upon a time. There are a few ideas for this online, and I did a write-up for a class encounter system, which would pair you with 2 of your fellow job members and pit you against a series of bosses. There was a similar write-up on Reddit somewhere as a solo encounter. If SE could store who did it fastest and post a type of leaderboard, or could potentially give away prizes for clearing it in under X minutes, it could be an interesting system. The drawbacks, of course, would be elitism, something Yoshi P has talked about multiple times. He doesn't want things that can be used as a barrier to entries into groups. Must have a time of 3 minutes or less and blah in order to be in my static, etc. There is also the duty fragmentation component, etc., etc. I don't know how much room there would be for job-specific encounters, because with the number of jobs that you have, that is a lot of development time that would go into something that very few people would get to see as a whole.
Well, why could very few people? I mean, I think anyone who has a job would be able to enter it, right? Like, don't make it an end game thing. Make
Yeah, but if you're looking at making, like, when I think of job-specific encounters, I think, like, all right, you know, we're going to make some encounters that are specifically for ninjas, specifically for paladins, specifically for warriors, and you could already see with how many jobs there are, you know, if you did 3 encounters per job, that's something that as your job you would blow through really quickly, but as a whole, that is a lot of development time.
I mean, they already have this with, like, the job quests.
Yeah.
That was the other thing,
If they do the job
yeah.
quest and they do all that development, why not just make, like, once you hit the final quest for your job, then you unlock another trial for your job where you can take a couple other people who are also your job and go in and do it. I don't think it would require as much development as you think it would.
I think instead of looking at it as a job-specific encounter, basically what this says to me is they need to go back and look at guild hests and find a way to further develop those.
Or just make them not suck.
Or make them not suck.
Well, he said that Yoshi P even said he didn't want to make any new guild hests because they're meant as kind of a tutorial for new players, and that he didn't feel like that's why people are like, oh, no guild hests from 50 to 60. And they're like, yeah, well, you pretty much already know how to play your job while you get to 50. So they're meant to teach people. So I think that's probably fine the way that it is. But
well, I still think that concept has room in the game. Something that's smaller. That you know you can do as smaller groups that you could, you know, put time trials on, because time trials is something that Yoshi P says that he would like to put into the game.
He said that in the next patch they're actually going to give us, if you go in as an undersized party into the lower dungeons, they're going to show you your time, so you can time trial yourself on lower level dungeons like that.
That would be cool. But I think that also, and again, this is something that we've touched upon in multiple episodes, but if you look back at things like Nizul Isle or Assault, those were essentially what guild hests are. I mean, guild hests obviously did it as more of a tutorial with basic components, but you go in with small groups of people to accomplish very specific tasks.
You know, I could see a job-specific thing working for something like assaults. So say they put assaults in here. They don't have to make them different for each job. Just make them clearable by each set of jobs. So, like, maybe you take 3 paladins in, and you can see how fast you can clear it as 3 paladins, which obviously is not going to be as fast as, like, 3 monks. But you can just see, like, you can compare yourself to other groups of 3 paladins and try to clear it. So that way it's the same exact rate, and they don't have to do development for each type of job, but you can go in as a set of jobs and try to clear that job's specific time trial.
Juxta?
I just don't see the point of having, like, a job specific. Like, why does it have to be 3 paladins or 3 ninjas? Like,
yeah, I think that job specific.
I don't understand the design philosophy with that.
I think job specific was maybe poor wording. I think just an event for smaller groups of people.
Well, I think job-specific makes it a little more fun, and it kind of stretches you to see how much you can do with certain jobs. Like, if you went with paladins, you know, you could have one more tanky, one more DPSy, and, like, one of them every so often will focus on actually using clemency and trying to heal the group a little bit. And, like, it kind of stretches just to see what you can do with the job outside of its basic, like, uses. Like, even with monk, you can have one monk in earth stance and one monk in the fire stance, and, like, see what you can do with the job. It just allows for, I don't know, just a little bit more fun. Like, I don't think you'd get any gear from it that would be, like, end-game breaking gear, but it would be something fun, and you'd get, you know, glamour or minions, you know, whatever. And I think it would be something cool.
So that works for paladin and monk, kind of, not really. But what do you do with ninja, where we just hit stuff, or dragoon, where you just poke stuff?
Well, actually, and dragoon has a whole new set of problems, because how the fuck are you going to get 3 dragoons together?
Oh, ha ha ha. No, I think it could work because with ninja, let's see, some of the ninjas can focus more on their, gosh, I don't know. We'll require more coordination between who dropped their trick attacks and stuff at which times and that kind of thing. And you'd have to.
You already do that.
Yeah, I know, but like most people don't take more than one ninja, so this would require a lot of teamwork.
Okay, so you'd have to bounce hate using your hate tools. That's how ninja would work.
Yeah, actually, you could do that. And like a scholar and white mage could also have some healing, some DPSing. What other classes? Running through
Black
them.
mage.
Black mages. One black mage would probably have to focus on healing, or
My gosh, we're
or
going
maybe-
back to Final
no,
Fantasy 11.
no, but it
Black
would.
mage, sub white mage. You're the heal.
It just
for
allows
us,
you to play around with jobs a little bit differently. Some could focus on AoE, some solo targets, some maybe you actually need to use Blizzard and Fire, so you have one doing Blizzard, one doing Fire. I don't know. It just something different to change it up. It wouldn't be something game breaking. It wouldn't be something end game. It would just be something for the people who want to do it.
So basically, they would make it, and then people would do it for a few weeks and never touch it again.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Unless they made it how, remember in FF11, if you cleared a trial, it would tell you the fastest person who cleared it, but every maintenance or whatever, it would reset. So
I still
like
don't think that's enough to keep bringing
every
people
Tuesday,
back to it.
then it would be like this. Every Tuesday, the leading person would reset, and then you get a new set of points, and you'd have to get points to get the glamours and the minions. It would be like time trial points. No?
No.
It does.
No.
Okay, that's fine. That's a good idea, but why do you have to limit it to job specific? Why can't you just have it be, here's a thing you do with 3 or 4 people, and the point is time trials, and you have to find like the best job combination to clear it in the quickest time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool too, and that would be more along the lines of assaults, because then, you used to get assault points to get those items and such, and that would be cool. The whole reason I was sticking with the job specific is just for fun, honestly, just to see what you can do and what you can.
And
stretch
you can obviously always still just take in 3 people, but I don't think that you should go as far as to limit people right off the bat and what they can go in with. Maybe you could offer different incentives, like if you do go in with 3 of the same job, or with no healers, with no DPS. I don't know. But I think what gets to the core of this though is that the game needs something new. Not even just necessarily a new encounter, but they need to find a way to switch something up. Something maybe, newer mechanics that we're looking for.
A new event.
Porangatang says that every time a new patch is coming out, I hear tanks bitch and moan about boring-ass tank swap mechanics. They want something new, something different, something challenging. Personally, I think 3.0 stepped it up quite a bit with the tank swaps and full party encounters, but it would be interesting in hearing the crew's opinion on this subject and possibly some suggestions, maybe ideas for things that you've seen in other MMOs or that you think would be interesting. Do you have any thoughts in that regard, Nika, being our resident tank?
Okay, so people are bitching about boring tank swap mechanics. I'm trying to think. Like, a lot of the times originally in Coil, you would get around that by solo tanking or, mixing that up a little bit. Alexander's made it differently because they made it things like, the boss splits in half, and now you need each tank. So it's not a tank swap so much as both tanks have to do things like that. I was saying before that I didn't necessarily like that they were forcing us to have to use 2 tanks, because that's why I liked the difference between, you could go with a warrior and a paladin, or you can just let a paladin be its defensive awesomeness that it is and solo tank with a paladin, and they were both legitimate strategies. Although now Square Enix is kind of like, no, you must do tank swaps at all times because we want you to have 2 tanks and not take advantage of the system, which, has led to people not wanting to use paladins, yada, yada, yada. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything too wrong with tank swaps as long as the off tank can then either do damage or actually have a real role to play. As I can tell you right now, I'm off tanking for AS3. And the reason I'm saying it's literally useless is because Paladin's damage compared to what a warrior would be doing as an off tank is literally 0. So it's kind of lame. So I think if Paladin or something has to be an off tank and you're tank swapping and all tanks are viable, you need to give the off tank something to do that's not just waiting around to provoke.
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually with We're not going to talk about too in depth about this because I think this has enough weight to it to probably carry its own discussion show. But with the video being released recently for the 2 Savage A4 clears, we've seen that both the two free companies that have cleared it went about the mechanics differently. One of them dealt with them as they were intended to deal with them, and the other one sort of found ways around them. Okay. And I think that what this shows, again, we're not going to necessarily talk about whether or not those were right or wrong or good or bad, but it does bring up the interesting idea and concept that there are multiple ways to deal with encounters and with mechanics, okay? So it's not just about memorizing things and dealing with it. That mechanics in a raid or in a game should include risks. Risks besides just, if you don't do this, you're going to die, okay? One of them was if they didn't kill the big ad in the A4 encounter, it sucked away all the MP, right?
Right.
Okay. That's fine, because what that does is it makes the encounter more difficult, okay? Most groups, if that happened, if you have no MP, you're going to die, okay? But if you have better skill as a player, if you know how to work together, if you can cooperate and communicate with each other, that's something that you can overcome through communication and through skill, and that is what this game needs on all fronts, is the ability to decide how are we going to tackle this problem. So it's not just about, are we doing enough damage fast enough? No, we're not. We died. Being able to deal with things on the fly and make split-second decisions as they come to you is far more interesting than, are we putting out enough DPS this time? Nope. Oh, we died again.
Exactly. That's what I've been talking about being able to react to a situation. Somebody dies or something happens that's not what you want, and it doesn't mean instant wipe. Like, I mean, even in T9, when you get, 2 meteors are too close to each other, instant wipe. Like, it should be like, no, it's not an instant wipe, but you have to react to it fast enough or in a certain way in order to not instant wipe. And that's why, going back to tank swaps, is I think that it's cool when you can decide different ways to even just tackle those mechanics. Like I was talking about either choosing to use 2 tanks or 1 tank and both being valid strategies. Like somebody, I think Buddy, what's his name, in the chat is talking about tank swaps in T11, and I'm thinking about it. I have never taken 2 tanks into T11. Like, we solo tanked from the beginning. I think you're supposed to tank swap during Brainjack, when the tank gets Brainjacked and starts attacking other party members. But if you actually bring another party member up into the center of the boss, then the main tank will just attack that party member and not flip the boss around. And that's honestly what I did every single time. And so in that case, if they're both 100% valid strategies, and like, you know, Square Enix never patched it so that you couldn't do that with Paladin, so that you had to bring in 2 tanks. They left it as a valid strategy. And I think that going forward, I would love to see things like that, and that also leaves Paladin to be the defensive tank that it should be. You know, because I don't think you could do that so much with other tanks, because when you're not using your cooldowns, you're just taking flat damage, but Paladin has more defense, so it works out like that. Oh, that was T8. That was turn 8, I'm sorry, not turn 11. But, yeah, I got that mixed up. That was turn 8.
Any thoughts on that? I mean, me and you probably have the biggest resume when it comes to different MMOs played.
Yeah, I think anything where, instead of just saying, if you get hit by this, you lose, or if you don't meet this, you lose, is poor design. Because instead of, like, obviously, if you fail a mechanic, you should make the fight harder. But if you can overcome that harder mechanic and then have a different way of doing things, then it should be easier. Basically, anything that lets you, like, choose how you want to tackle a problem in a situation is better. So I like how Square Enix decided to make that, letting that big ad live, and just drain, or when the big ad lives and explodes and drains all your mana, instead of having it just wipe you, I think having it drain all your mana is a better way to do it, because it's like you said, most people won't be able to keep up with the healing after that, but if you can, then you have that much DPS to put towards the boss. So I think anything that lets you choose how you want to tackle a situation is gameplay overall.
Yeah, and hopefully that's something that we will see evolve going forward, and that they will take advantage of putting into the game, because it's infinitely more interesting when you're put into a situation like that where you could fail, to see that light at the end of the tunnel, to see that's where we need to get, that's where we need to finish, that's how we succeed. But getting there, you have to cross a bridge that's crumbling all around you. You know, that is far more interesting. It gets your heart racing a lot more. And it's just way more fun than, oh, crap, you know, we didn't hit the fucking dragon lance things, so now we have to all kill ourselves because we're not going to beat Bismarck. There's just no way at this point. To just have all that hope crushed in front of you and have to jump off the edge and start over is soul-crushing, and you feel defeated every time it happens. Whereas if you see that light and you misstep and you fall off that crumbling bridge, you know that was your fault. You know how to correct it, what you have to do. And it's more interesting to see if you can make it this time than just, okay, I have to push my DPS harder. I have to push my DPS harder. We failed again because I didn't push my DPS harder. It's not fun that way.
And Slugs in the chat is actually posing a question. He says, but people just let the ad explode on purpose and deal with the mana drain because it makes the fight easier. Is that a good idea when a mechanic that should punish you makes the fight easier? I don't think that mechanic was designed to necessarily punish you. It's designed to make the fight different. If they want to punish you, they'd give the main boss like a damage increase that's basically unhealable, or just do like max damage to you and make you lose. I think they were deliberate when they made it take away all your mana, because now you have a different set of problems you have to overcome. But if you can't, now you have another option to go with the raid, and you can choose to put all that DPS towards making a shorter fight if you can overcome the new problem of less mana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and taking away your mana does make the fight harder, but it's a matter of, with your raid setup, which is harder? Dealing with no mana or dealing with the ad?
How did they deal with it? They had the machinist use the mana thing, and then they died, and they used the healing limit break, and the machinist could do it again, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was something like that. And I mean, I don't know. I can't tell if that was intentional or if that was just a workaround, because I feel like with the intense type of DPS check that they're doing, I feel like that killing that ad fast enough was supposed to be a DPS check. And
Probably.
that they're reacting with the instant wipe things are stupid. And so instead of being instant wipe, they're quote-unquote instant no MP, which was supposed to lead to a wipe. However, they found a workaround to it, and I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just player I don't know.
Well, it is player discovery, and it is an interesting concept and idea, and it's something that I think we're going to talk about more in depth as a group. Probably not. It'll be interesting to see, because wasn't there some similar thing on the Twitania fight where people was using and they did patch it?
There's a big difference. The Twitania fight was actually exploiting a glitch in the game.
Okay, you're right. That is absolutely
this was deciding to self-suicide and things like that to make mechanics more manageable, which in that way, yeah, it's exploiting the mechanics of the game, but it's not exploiting a glitch. Like, this was all within the game itself. Whereas that was like, oh, if we stand in a certain spot, Twintania can't hit us, so we can just sit here and do damage. That's different, because that was never intended. This, I mean, it's all within legal rules of the game. You know, suiciding, raising, and using the mana songs and whatever is totally legal.
All right. Well, hopefully this idea or this concept of finding ways around mechanics is something that I would personally like to explore in more detail in a future episode. I know that Nero is also very excited to dive into a topic like that. I actually foresee lots of salt. Lots of salt in a thing like that. So that's that. Yeah, it shall salt all of the earth.
I'm thinking back to 11. Wasn't there some where you could like talk to the starting point question mark in certain instances, and like if you got attacked by monsters, they wouldn't hurt you? Did they ever change things like that?
I have no idea.
Because I feel like stuff like that, or like in actually the first time we cleared Pandemonium Warden, we won by actually logging out to avoid the astral flow. I wonder if you like
that's cheating.
Hey,
all right.
Acknowledged it as legit kill on their main page.
Children,
but I'm
back
thinking,
to your corners. Like I said, this is something we're going to try and tackle on a whole different show. There was lots of discussion to be had about this concept.
Okay, first of all, we came up with a different way to kill it after that, so whatever. But secondly, it's like, what if in A4 some people decided to like log out a healer so they wouldn't get hit with the MP drain and then logged back in? Could that work? Maybe. Like, is that something
that's
Square?
Not dealing with mechanics. That's exploiting a glitch.
Okay.
It's not a glitch. It's legal.
Children.
I'm just curious. Would that be something that could work? Would that be something that Square Enix would be forced to patch or something? I don't know.
I don't know
well,
either.
Yeah, you're gonna have to patch it because you can't
you
just leave the fight.
Guys, you're making me act like an adult right now, and it's awkward. Okay, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like being responsible.
It's within the rules, and if that helps them avoid mechanics,
It's not within the rules. You can't leave the fight and then come back in whenever you want.
Who says?
Oh my gosh! All right. Shelf it.
One thing I do want to point out.
It's going to come back later when it spills over the shelf.
It is going to come back later on a future show, and I'm going to let you two and Aniro all duke it out, because I think that Aniro would probably end up being on Nika's side in all of this. So good luck, Juxta. Good luck.
Well, one more thing I wanted to point out, though. In that kill where they let the big robot explode, they also avoided another mechanic with the suiciding with the Nissi mechanic is where you're supposed to have that big damage over time debuff, but they just ignored that. And at the end, I believe there's like a whole bunch of bombs you have to blow up while you have the Nissi mechanic on you, but they just let the mechanic, they just ignore the Nissi mechanic and let that fall off, and then the machinist explodes himself on the bombs to prevent the raid-wide damage. So that's how that ties in with the other thing, but yeah. So.
Yeah, but those are things that we're going to discuss on a future show, because I really want Nero to be here for that, because I'm sure he has extremely strong opinions on it, just like our intern does. Nika. All right, so was there any other types of theories or crazy stuff like that you guys wanted to tinfoil hat about? Things that you'd like to see in the game? Be they jobs, be they events, dungeons, anything like that?
I would like events like, okay, I remember back in 11, it would be like an event that happened once a year, and they would have like the ballista tournaments. I think they could have a PvP tournament between all the worlds where like the worlds would face off, and then one PvP team from each server, you'd go head to head, and you'd have like a PvP winner, and they would get, like a unique glamour item. And that would be like once a year, and I think that would be really cool.
You don't think that the types of things that they do, like at FanFest for that, is up that alley?
It definitely is, but not everyone can go to FanFest, whereas everyone can play the game from their house. And I think this way it allows you to actually be like server versus server, whereas at FanFest you're kind of with the first 72 people in line. So I think this way you kind of battle it out on your own server first to be the best Limsa, the best whatever on your server, and then face off with other servers to have which server is the best PvP server or something. I think that would be fun. And then like a World Cup of PvP, and every year they would do it, and then the title would pass to another server or something. I think that would be fun.
I think that it would be really cool to also have events like that rally you together as a server, or instead of just things like, all right, here's this new event, and you just go out and do it yourself, and once it's done, it's done. Where you have to do it, again, as a server, you have to collect resources, and you actually have to progress to certain points together. Kind of like
They did that with that Doll Festival, though. Do you remember that?
I did not do the Doll Festival. I wasn't playing at the time.
You had to go out and dig for treasure boxes, and when you turn them in, your server would build up dolls, and once you got the entire set of dolls, then you could buy, your whole server could buy the special necklace.
Something cooler than just dolls and a special necklace, but basically how when you participate in Fates where you collect stuff, except it's like a world fate. I think that kind of event would be really cool.
That would be cool.
Yep. Juxta, anything else that you wanted to add?
Yes, I want them to add 2 new races to this game.
Oh!
I want them to add Viera to the game.
Everyone wants that.
And I also want them to add Viranga to the game.
Wait, what? What was that second one?
Viranga.
What's Viranga?
It's a mixture between the Vera bunny people and the Banga lizard people.
That was the joke that he made during a live letter when everyone wanted Viera, and people were saying, no, maybe the Banga, that weird, like, 2-foot bunny ugly looking thing that was in FF12 also, and like mixed them together, and he's like, yes, new race Virabanga or whatever it was called, and
Viranga.
everyone like freaked out, and then he's like, just kidding. It was really ugly, and you don't want it in the game.
Nobody can
You
see
really
this
don't.
right now, but I'm doing that thing you do when you just kind of tilt your head to the side and you grab your nose like at the bridge with your fingers because you have a headache and you're just like, why do I work with these people? Why don't I have a way to silence Juxta? Why the fuck did I agree to do this
Oh,
while
it was
Nero was on
April
fucking
Fools.
vacation? That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, it was an April Fool's joke. That's what it was. But
I want to be a bunny man.
Yeah,
actually,
Juxta.
that is something we didn't touch on. Other races we'd like to see in this game.
I think that kind of, I think he
Because
basically
Aura
hits it on the head.
Didn't expect. At
Yeah,
all.
yeah. Does Aura have any place in any other FF lore, or is that like a
Oh.
brand new? That was a brand new
Well,
race, right?
I mean, they took some design philosophies from, oh gosh, what's that Final Fantasy Tactics 2 race?
Oh, no idea. I do like the idea of Vieira, though. I think that would be a welcome addition.
Yeah, someday I think they might, but they think they're too close to Mithra. Or
well-
Mikote, I'm sorry, Mikote. Wow.
Well,
never-
I think that would be the challenge in designing them. I don't think you can just be like, oh, here's a Hyrule with bunny ears. I think that you're gonna have to go a little bit further and make them more unique and a little more exotic looking. Maybe they're, like way more. They have to be, I think, tall like Elvons are, right? But I think more slender than muscular. And you could just give longer legs, a little bit longer arms, just elongate certain parts of them so they look a little bit more
male
unique.
Vieira would be interesting because in
Yeah.
FF12 lore, there's only females. So, but I feel like in this game they would make it a point to make males. But my problem with both of the FF MMOs is I think it has more to do with Japanese design and thoughts of character races, but they're all humanoid, very humanoid. And I think that a lot of Western RPGs and MMOs are okay with more beastly looking races. So even though we got a dragon or demon based race, but it doesn't look like a demon. It looks like a person with demon qualities.
Well, give us
Whereas,
bongas then.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like bangas or something similar, or like even trolls or things that are a little more gritty. Japanese MMOs seem to be very focused on the beautiful, pretty, cute little pop stars with elements of other, like
Well,
just having cat ears and a
hold on.
cattail. Like give us like
Now
more
hold on,
cat-like
you
pieces.
can't say that Japanese people are focused on pretty, beautiful things when they give us femros.
No!
Fuck
Oh,
off.
shots fired!
Off.
Oh man! I feel like that's a new game that we're gonna play. Who can get Nika to cuss on the show first? You won it today.
She turns around.
You she turned around on the stream. You win the Trigger Nika award for today, Jux. Congratulations.
Anyway, back to my point, is that I think it would be cool to have something that looks more like a beast as a playable person. But then again, if the lore is like, oh, people are scared of the Aura because they are unknown, when Aura still look like beautiful hearers with tails, I can't imagine that they would be okay with beastly creatures running around. Like something like, instead we get beastmen, which are almost always enemies. Or you get that one clan of beastmen that's nice to you,
Yeah.
but you can't actually play as the beastman. Like having Amalja, it's humanoid enough you can run around as an Amalja, but that's a beastman and we'll probably never be able to play as an Amalja. But that would be a neat race to be able to play as.
Well, but you have to remember that the armor sets in this game are like super like detailed and shit, and I don't know how you could transfer that to a beastman, beastioid type of race like an Amalja, I mean, look at
Maybe, but even something more troll-like. Like we get the Lalafell, which are like cute little children. We don't get like something like a short troll with a beard and gritty like, we don't get that in FF MMOs because they're not. I don't know if they're not pretty enough.
You don't have horde races like in WoW.
yeah. Well,
But
no,
I don't know.
No loss there.
Yeah, I'd like to say that it would be cool to try and say, yeah, we're getting Vieira next for sure, or Banga for sure, but with the addition of Aura, which are pretty much completely 100% unique, I think it's really hard to tell exactly what race we might get next.
Kikrin.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Kikrin, yes! Yes!
we already have them as enemies.
I don't
So-
care! I want to be a motherfucking Kikrin!
Or a Moogle.
Kalo the Kikrin.
Because, like, okay, let's think then. The Viera would be a mix of bunnies and humans, and Ara are like demons and humans. What other things could we mix? Or like
Elephant and humans.
And
Elephants and humans.
elephant?
Elephants and humans.
I want to be a shark man.
Shark men.
Or something
Yes.
based more on fish. That would be kind of interesting. Like, you'd have
Dolphins.
gills
I
and
just
stuff.
said shark.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how would that work? Like, you'd have gills?
No,
or
you would have a
like,
head.
Really
You would have a
big
shark
teeth and
head.
a big mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, and a dorsal fin.
You could choose between like you know how there's like Highlander and Lowlander and like you know like they always have two things to choose from. You can choose between like a great white or a hammerhead.
Who is that in the Limix and says
Oh,
human mix.
Viewmos is right. We already have elephants and humans. That's what ephemero is.
Okay, no, that doesn't work because there is absolutely nothing similar between an elephant and ephemeral. Nice try. That
Lemurs
did
have really large feet.
no, they don't. Nice try.
Let me see the size of that nose, Nika. Come here. It's kind of a
I
big
was-
nose.
it's a very normal nose, actually.
Look at the size
And-
of that thing.
No.
Gross.
No. Or what about? Or it doesn't even have to be animal. I don't know. It's like,
Those guys isn't even on this episode.
No, guys, Kookie's right. We need the Quan race from FF9.
Oh my gosh. All right, are we
wait,
done
which
here?
race? Which race?
Quena.
Oh, Queen's race.
Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah, move on.
Actually,
Yeah.
that would be interesting. Could you imagine like a tank body on like a big fat like, fawn?
All right, so
Centaurs. What about centaurs?
So we are getting pretty far in. We're already up to about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and we have 13 emails today, guys.
Okay.
We have lots of emails. So we're moving into the email portion of our show now. Again, if you have any ideas or concepts or theories of your own that you would like to share with us, the host, and possibly get them read on air during one of our next episodes, please, please, please email us at hosts@limitbreakradio.com. We would love to hear what thoughts you have. So, moving into emails, I'm going to take the first one, which is from a good friend of ours. And it says, "Hey crew," insert rar because they forgot to. "It's been a while. I've been busy on Balmung, punching things in the face and kicking things in the butt. General monkey business. Kahlo write more, Annie talk more. Anyway, I was relieved to hear on your last show a caller who professed some dissatisfaction with the job class of summoner. This has long been on my mind. The job is just unappealing to me. Now, I have a level 50 Arcanist, which I leveled for the purpose of using Scholar. I run dungeons as Summoner for giggles, and I'm not suggesting in any way that the job is broken or inefficient. My complaint with them is purely aesthetic and mostly personal opinion. It's underwhelming. It's a ho-hum pet class, a magician playing with dolls. I just don't comprehend what the job wants to be. It's very easy to make comparisons to the Summoner job in 11, but why shouldn't we? In lieu, when I summoned an avatar, I was summoning a manifestation of what was essentially a god, tall in stature and visually impressive. They were the stars of the show, and I was happy to be their escort into this realm. When I summon Garuda or Ifrit in 14, I just look at the irradiated action figure floating beside me, and I'm just depressed. What happened to summoners being the flashy heavy hitters? Where are the reasons for my summoners to be notable in battle? I'm a monk main, and when I watch myself going to town on a training dummy, the DPS isn't as important to me as the way I look amazing, landing combo after combo, stylish moves displaying what everything I feel a powerful martial artist should be. With Summoner, I get none of that feeling. I don't need a 30-foot avatar crowding up the arenas and hallways of my duties, but I do feel like Summoner was a botched attempt at creating a job. It's a job that practices evoking up powerful entities, and I should be the one lucky enough to have them on my side, not constantly reminded that I feel nothing for the colorful piñata beside me. Also, quick note, you were talking about community feedback playing part of the metagame. Just felt I should reiterate what a lot of people often don't consider. This is not our game. It's not our vision. It's a creative mind at Square Enix. They have a purpose and a plan, and more importantly, a vision of what they wanted to make. When a company starts changing a game based on what a community cries about, they're often making compromises to their vision. Let them craft their masterpiece, only informing them that they've occasionally missed a spot. Love you guys. Still tell Farima, aka Deadly Bunny, aka Silite, winky face.
Silite.
First of all, on your summoner thing, that was a very, very colorfully painted picture, and I think you more or less encapsulated exactly what a lot of summoners feel their job is lacking. So, thank you for that, and I would expect no less. As for your note about the meta discussion, that's completely true. And I think there is constantly, especially if you go to the official forums, there is no shortage.
We want.
Yeah, there is no shortage of we wants complaining about what they think the game should have, what they think the game should make, blah 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 blah. And I think that Square Enix definitely has a vision in mind. Yoshipi has a vision in mind, and it's not something that he's going to compromise for any level of we wants in the game. Who wants to take the next email? It kind of looks like it's a short one. Juxta.
Sure.
This is one of our short emails.
Yeah.
It's not even that short. All right.
Sure isn't. This is from Marcus Ragnar of Sargentanus. He writes, "Hey, LBR, writing this email while listening to episode 29. Tried to call in to the meta discussion, but I didn't make it in, so I'm sending this instead. My beef as someone who mained Bard up until 2 months before 3.0 early access dropped is the change in playstyle is why I was playing Bard to a style I actively dislike. If I wanted to play a goddamn caster class, I'd pick up
Turn up
Black
the salt,
Mage.
Jux.
I'd pick up Black Mage or Summoner. I
Good.
agree. I like being able to run around and
Don't
shoot
drop it. Keep the salt going.
I like to be able to run around and shoot people, especially because as someone with a rather crappy PC, I couldn't always dodge AoE easily until I got better at the game. And being locked into one spot to do damage is why I haven't tried to play the Disciples of Magic classes past 15 to any serious capacity, even if I do want the level 60 summary title. I'd be fine if White Mage gave smaller damage boost, White Mage. I'd be fine if Wanderer's Minuet gave a smaller damage boost, say half of what it is now, but Bard kept their mobility. Having skills with cast times by default, however, it wouldn't be so bad because, hey, where you get a chance to line up all your cooldowns to ramp up your damage to Freight Tane going Kool-Aid Man through wall levels, and Period Arrow chunks down things. Jesus, man. Chunks down things like crazy. Having a cast timer on that would be fine, since nobody, to my knowledge, actively uses it unless Barrage is up anyway. I could see similar things being applied to Machinist as well to keep things fairly even between the two ranged physical DPS classes, with Bard being more sustained damage with their DOTs and Bloodletter procs, and Machinist being the burst damage class with Wildfire and Ammunition skill procs. Now, if anyone who actually likes the caster classes, Wondrous Minuet and Gauss Barrel as they are right now, just dropping my 2 cents in the matter. Keep doing your thing, LBR. You guys are fucking awesome. P.S. Hashtag Roll Lives Matter. And I'm glad to see all-around representation from Juxta the Hutt.
All right, so Juxta, you're probably have the most experience on Bard.
Yeah, I haven't played it since Wanderer's Minuet because I don't want to cast Arrow, like, some kind of Arrow mage.
Yeah, but, no, I think he raises a good point though, and it kind of gets lumped into that same category as Silight's email about Summoner in a way. Bard had a specific play style, and it's kind of changed up now. For a lot of people, it does feel like the job's completely changed around. So.
Yeah, I mean that's the primary reason why I leveled Bard to begin with, is because I could run and gun, and not even be looking at the mob and still shooting off my abilities and shit.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah.
All right, there's a lot of cursing in this next one, Nika. Do you think you have the appropriate level of salt to deliver on it?
Well, we can find out.
All right.
All right, here we go. It says, "Hey again. I listened to 29 and thought I'd add something I'm pretty sure most are thinking, or a thought that is in pieces that maybe I can put together. When the conversation of Paladin comes up, there is a lot to examine. Some say the heals can DPS more. Some say search for more within the DPS. Some say fuck the pompous lass and grab a warrior. Let me say in advance that I have warrior at 60. I think that the problem is that there is absolutely no exclusivity to the individual player. If they'd allow for some individual choice, then maybe we'd have more options. Square Enix painted themselves into this corner. Tank, healer, 2 DPS mix well, or not even all that well. If the Paladin could have a talent tree like WoW, maybe they could end up with a more DPS-friendly version that maybe sacrifices their mitigation. Effectively, that makes them like the other jobs. The real issue that Square Enix has created is that by making it so user-friendly to play, they have also made the job classes very vanilla. Believe me, as you well know, for every decision made, someone will bitch. Crazy to think that any aspect of FFXI would be desired again, but you've got to admit, they didn't give a single fuck what their player base thought or wanted. So now they care too much, maybe? There's always going to be the cool kids aspect to any game like this. People examine stats far too closely not to pull back the proverbial curtain on the jobs. So what do? What would anyone do? I think it's far easier to bitch than to solve. Christ, if it wasn't for porn and bitching, what the fuck would the internet be for?
Amen!
They even talk of additional jobs. I would love to see Red Mage in this game. I played one in 11, but I don't think I would want to play the version of this game that it would create. So again, I ask, what would you do? Do you expand parties to 5 people and make dungeons harder and by extension raids, etc., so they justify an enhancement class to join the fray? Or do they homogenize the whole thing and just add more of the same shit? The truth is, there's always an in-crowd in life, work, games, etc. I have a little 50 Paladin, 51 Dark Knight, and I'm not sure what to think when there is so much favoritism being had. Until the game can allow for a warrior who could DPS and a summoner who could heal and a something that's not supposed to tank but is actually tanking, you're going to have this issue. What I miss most about 11 above all else is the sub-jobs. They give us a choice of secondary talents provided the proper jobs are leveled, but the ones used are always the same. You can put skill points into anything, but if you are worth a damn in your chosen class job, everyone puts them in the same place. You want best in slot, then hit the newest raid or dungeon, your brain into submission for tokens to buy it. Where the fuck is the creativity here? How the fuck am I asking where creativity is in a game? I nixed Alex only days into the expansion, and it didn't take long for me to stop playing FF14. I have only been on a handful of times since then. I just don't get anything from it. Someone please help me find what I once saw in this game. To sum it up, we're fucked. Good night and good luck. Joffrey, a.k.a. Aokiji Kuzan on Ragnarok. He says, P.S. You have a tendency to go on a I'm doing this my way and I don't give a fuck what you think tirade every week now, it seems. If you don't give a shit, then don't give a shit. Haters are gonna hate, lovers are gonna love, and the rest of the bullshit the Bobsy twins always say next.
Well, just like haters are going to hate and lovers are going to love, a Nero likes the sound of his own voice, so Neros are going to a Nero. Yeah,
I was
pretty
waiting
much.
for the nutter's going to nut in that one. Didn't have that.
I'm a Nero today. Okay, I can't. I don't know. You have to wait for the right spot. You have to. He does. No, he does. It's absolutely right. Just the overall.
In terms of the, but I feel like the way this game is what I was saying during our meta discussion, is that this game kind of feels like there's a best in slot or a best way to do everything. We've talked about how there's not a lot of variety in the raids, there's not a lot of variety in customization. I mean, we have the option to put stats into other parts in other stats, but I mean, I guess tanks have the option of splitting up strength and vitality, but other than that, every other class puts everything into the exact same stat, and if you don't, then you're not best, you know? So I feel like they had so much, you know, opportunity to allow, like, oh, a more DPSC whatever, or a more Healy Black Mage who put some into mind or whatever, but since everything has a best way to do everything and the DPS checks are so harsh that if a Black Mage wanted to spec that way, or if a Scholar wanted to spec more for DPS or whatever, it's just not best, so don't do it, and that allows for not a lot of customization.
Yeah, it does definitely take us back to the idea of not just job homogenization, but just the homogenization of the game in general. And you know, we're hoping that as 3.1 and 3.2 drops, it starts to change up the way the game operates a little bit, because as things are going, you know, I'm right there with Joffrey, that I basically only log on at this point to flesh out my isotomes. So we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, I'll admit, I really only log in for raids right now, but that is largely due to Metal Gear, and when I finish that, I will probably play 14 a lot more.
Yep. Juxta, why don't you take this next email so you don't get stuck with a long one?
So who's this from? Doesn't look like it says.
Nope, I don't think
All
it
right,
says.
so my perspective on Summoner is that it's in a great place right now, and the 14 iteration is 1,000 times better and more interesting than what Summoner was for years in 11. A mana tank white mage.
Shots fired.
Hashtag it. Main complaints I hear about Summoner are visuals and, quote, feel. For people who complain about visuals, go back and watch the Astrofulls of 11 summons. They're really unimpressive. There's some nostalgia bias going on here. The Eggies do look a little lame, but I think it's more to do with their design instead of the fact they are, quote, mini summons. I.e., the Ifrit Iggy graphically looks much like Garuda or Titan, just in terms of detail. And there are obvious reasons why having huge pets running around in the field would be bad for visibility, etc. As for feel, what a lot of people want for Summoner, some iteration of the generally overpowered AoE nuker it is in other games in the series, which is untenable in an MMO. This is a bigger issue because, quote, feel is the same reason why people are against things like Dark Knight being a tank class, or the addition of red/blue mage, because they might not function exactly like they do in the rest of the series. Personally, I'd much rather them use classic jobs and take a spin on them so they fit the 14 balance of the game, rather than add a bunch of jobs with no history or connection to Final Fantasy. All that being said, the Rami Eggy tease at the beginning of the Summoner 3.0 questline was a huge troll move by Square Enix.
Haha, that's awesome.
Yes, it was.
I disagree with this email on one point, saying that they have good AoE anymore. At the moment, Summoner is actually the best AoE in the game. So we are once again like the Final Fantasy feel, where they just annihilate trash mobs.
Yeah. Interesting look on Summoner compared to what we've been getting, and I actually like that we got it in the exact same episode as the Silent one, because they're more or less talking about the same thing but feel different ways on it. And I'm gonna also have to disagree with the email here and side with the majority of Summoners. I mean, I haven't even leveled them, and I don't know, like looking at this one that we have on the stream right now, like if that's all that you have and you don't even really use it, yeah, sorry, that's pretty lame.
Yeah, I think Ash Saber in the chat actually said if Summoner had been called Evoker, like in FF3 it was called that, I think it would be a little bit different. But when you think of summoning, you're trying to summon the entity, but instead I do think it does kind of look like an action figure. You know, it's not. They said that in the email, right? It looks like something I would put on a birthday cake or something. You know, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to fight with that, right? I don't know. So I mean, I could look at my Garuda. It's like floating there. It's fluffy. Take away the magic aura, and I could cuddle up with it and sleep at night. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that I would fight with. It's not something I would summon from the abyss of darkness, from the deepest realms of all of Eorzea, to summon a stuffed animal. So, yeah, there's a Titan now.
Yep.
Even the Titan looks like it could be kind of fluffy, even though it's a rock. It's still, it's very cute. Like, these are very cute. And I'm used to, if someone were to be like this menacing, I can invoke the power of the gods type of job, I don't want a cute stuffed animal.
Yeah, I think the problem with the feel of Summoner is that Bio, Miasma, Bio 2, Ruin, these aren't like Summoner skills. They're like poison answers. They're like
what Red Mage skills should be.
Yeah, they're like none of these things like scream Summoner to me. I mean, when has ever a Summoner used Energy Drain or Pain Flare? Like, none of these things, or Virus, like these aren't Summoner abilities.
Yeah, Summoner thematically really, really needs an overhaul. I mean, Jesus in the chat is saying that where'd it go? That Summoner is on high demand in the raiding environment. Yeah, no, mechanically, and as they exist in the game, you're right, they're absolutely great. The biggest complaint that people have is just that they don't feel like Summoners.
Yeah, I think if they had made Blue Mage or Red Mage have these kind of stat down abilities and dots that you can spread amongst everything, nobody would care. Like, the job as in the balance of the game is fine. It's just in terms of what people want Summoners to be, it isn't there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the problem.
Yep. Our next email. Hey, LBR. Danta Wahum here from Sargantanis. Before my little ramble begins, I'd like to say thank you to all of the hosts for having such an entertaining show. Brings me a lot of laughs and information between sessions on 14 and long drives to work. With that being said, let us begin. My experience tonight with Heaven's Ward has been faced with an extremely irritable topic to be discussed. Lack of initiative. I'm still working my way through the main story, but considering my time with the game, I have quite the handful of incidents where a group will just abandon the trials without giving it their 100%. As an early example of the opposite, my first run against Titan was surprisingly difficult. Our group wiped about 5 or 6 times. Maybe we sucked. I don't know. Either way, we kept going to understand what to do and to survive. guess what? We did it. We succeeded in wrecking Titan, and it gave us great spirits onward. At that point, it seems the majority now have the mentality of, if we wipe twice, we will never win. What I am speaking in regards to in recent times is my first running of Bismarck, aka Final Fantasy X's Sin, special guest live appearance it seems. First attempt, we wiped before taking down the second of the Twin Dragons during Phase 1. Immediately, the group starts with the "Wah! We don't have the DPS for this fight, we might as well quit." What happens in round 2? We get past the dragons and all survive the heavy hit. However, it seemed like through some carelessness and tunnel visioning DPS runners, we failed down to take the big whale in its final phase. What happens? Everyone, we must abandon! Run! Everyone teleports out, votes to abandon, grabs a coffee from Starbucks, and has a great freaking day. Well, that's not how I do things, damn it. It wasn't highly discouraging, but it was still extremely annoying seeing how easily folks will throw in the towel when they can't have just face roll the boss. Now, as I queue for my next attempt, I hope to run into some players with more confidence than the two-wipe abandon mentality. Have any of you experienced something like this frequently? Thanks for taking the time to read this short novel of an email, and keep up the excellent work. Danta Wahoon King Bibili on Twitch. Yeah, sadly, I have been on both sides of that before. Early on, when Ultima Hard Mode was first put out, I didn't tackle it till a little bit later when we actually got Echo on it. But I'd go in a few times, and we'd wipe at 50, 30, 20, 10. So we're getting better. Like we're getting closer and closer with each Echo, right? So we finally got to the point we wiped at 1%, and then we were at full Echo. Everybody quit. Like just one more attempt. We would have done it. Like, we're getting exponentially better. Why would you quit just before we've done it after spending like an hour in there? It's so fucking annoying. But I've also been one of those people where I get into the chrysalis, we wipe horribly, and I'm like, I can't fucking deal with this right now, and I leave.
Well, yeah, that makes sense if you wipe after the first try. I mean, if you're in there for an hour and you're going to get it the next fucking try, then yeah, stay that time.
Yeah, honestly, I still see it in fucking Steps of Faith. And the thing is that if you can clear that now by just attacking the boss and not even using the fucking dragon killers. And, like, people will still see it and instantly... It's always a tank, too, I feel like. I get Steps of Faith on Trial Roulette and the tank leaves instantly. Like, you've got to be kidding me. It's half the time that it used to be. It's still less time than a lot of other trials are. So I don't know why that is still such a big problem for people to do.
Solo tank it, Nika.
Yeah.
You can. It's difficult to do, but I mean, I've done that because you just have to hope that the people on the cannons, don't get pissed off if something hits them once or twice before you get the mobs off of them. But for the most part, you only really need one person on cannons half the time. You can hit the first dragon killer pretty easily and completely ignore the second one, and you'll kill it just really quickly. So I don't know.
But yeah,
I've had a few Chrysalis groups like that too, but I feel like it's always just it's only usually one wipe and then we win the second time because someone doesn't understand the mechanics of the meteors or the tiers.
Yeah. Yep. But yes, Danta, that does suck. It is unfortunately, I think, one of the just one of the evils of MMOs in general. Nico, would you like to take this next one?
Sure.
It's another Summoner one.
It seems to be everyone has.
Why is everyone talking about Summoner?
Well, we talked about Summoner a lot in our last.
At least it's not fucking Paladins this week.
Well, that's true.
That's true. It's very interesting to see, though, which people feel that Summoner it needs to be changed or the feel is different. Or, it's very interesting. Thank you for all these emails.
Look. As community leaders in the metagame industry, we are just doing our part to give pieces of the metagame back to Square Enix so that they can change their vision when they're crafting this game for us.
Right. So let's see which side of the coin this person's on. Hey guys, firstly, just want to say I love the show and use it to make my daily roulettes more endurable and give me things to think about as I go about my business in FF14. The following comments are about summoners and their feel and aesthetic within the world of Final Fantasy XIV. I am writing you to discuss the comments made on Summoner in your last podcast, episode 29. Well, I normally don't bother with this sort of stuff, and given the fact that it was only a caller's comment and it wasn't a main discussion, something about the idea that Summoner should be more summonery and have more summons irked me enough to write a response. Oh, here we go. These discussions have been occurring all over the forums and Reddit for a long time now. And while most people have come to either accept the idea that Summoner is a DOT-based DPS, or they like the job as it is, and there's still this idea that Summoner doesn't fit the brief of what Summoner should be. To me, a summoner only requires to have the ability to summon. While I do accept that FF14's summoner doesn't fully emphasize summoning as the key element that defines the summoner job, I feel that its presence in the design of the class is great. Essentially, the summoner job in this game is a DOT-based class, with the Eggy being a glorified DOT themselves with utility added onto them. The way that Square Enix evolved the job in Heavensward to me was probably the best way to make changes and improvements. Having the Eggy as an accessory to my DPS and my utility greatly empowers me as a player of the job and makes me feel far more invested in playing the job. The idea of making the job more focused on Eggy summoning seems to be a clunky way to design a job. Having the Dreadworm Trance as the main addition to Summoner this expansion is a completely complementary way to evolve the class and essentially still stays true to the Summoner brief. If Square had only just added more Eggies, I would have been very upset and feel that it would have been a very clumsy and uninspired way to grow the job. Eggy Glamours is definitely a positive step in creating variety for the Summoner's Eggies rather than having the dev team try and create new niches and mechanics for the new Eggies to fulfill. On top of this, when I look back at summoners found in previous games, there isn't one clear example. Characters such as Yuna, Garnet, and Eiko all were healers in their respective games, while Rydia was the only summoner whose focus was on dealing damage. Overall, I currently love the summoner design and would love to hear what you guys think on the matter. Thanks for your time. Avelit Luval on Tonberry server.
Wow. Very well-written email, and very, very well-designed argument, too. You got me.
It's a good argument, but you're wrong. Summoner doesn't feel summonery.
He has a good point, though.
It's a very good point. Like, I don't know how to argue with that.
Yeah, because now that I'm thinking, Yuna, Garnet, Eiko were all healers, and only Rydia was a summoner. If you think about it, I wonder... I mean, obviously, it's way too late now, but if they had made Summoner a healer from the beginning who could summon and do a little bit of damage, like their DPS stance, like instead of swapping to Cleric stance, they would swap with the summon, do some damage, swap back to healing. I wonder how that could have played out in this game.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with everything they said, and really at this point, you know, people like Juxta, their only recourse against that is just that, no, it needs to feel more summony.
Yeah.
Well, some people in the chat now are saying, does that just mean the summoners are becoming the new Wee-Wants at this point? Because the summoner job is, you know, fine the way it is. It doesn't need
come on. Summoner was always the we want. We want more Eggies. We want bigger Eggies. We want Eggies with our Eggies so our Eggies can Eggy while we Eggy. Summoners
Let go of my Eggy! Basically, the way that I see it right now is summoners are what I would be if I wasn't happy with Ninja. Like, if I wanted Ninja to be Thief, yeah, if I wanted Ninja to be Thief, I would essentially be a summoner. Because Ninja's a great job. It's fun. It does exactly what a Thief would do in the game. The only difference is it's not called a Thief, right? Summoners summon. They do everything this person said. The only difference is...
They don't have steel.
They don't have a giant summoner. We have Mug.
We have Mug.
Oh, okay. Okay, but what do you steal from it with Mug?
Whatever items they carry.
Yeah, it just gives them an increased chance to drop.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But it's basically it. Summoners do what summoners do. The only difference is that you don't have a giant summon, or that your moves don't have the right names.
I think part of it had to do with when you're an Arcanist, you actually get a full-sized Carbuncle summon. And then when you become a summoner, you can't even summon Carbuncle anymore.
Yeah, that's dumb.
And you don't get the full summon anymore. So I think that was kind of like a tease that they took away from summoners.
Yeah, poor Carbuncle.
Like, I think, you know, you have Garuda, who's the physical, or no, the magical, Ifrit who's the physical, and then Titan, who's the tank. I think you should still be able to summon Carbuncle as more of a healing and support. That would be cool.
Yeah.
And make it more like you could swap between summons easier to be more utility. I don't know.
Well, like we said, you know, we'll see what we get going forward. Juxta, another kind of short one.
Alrighty.
You're getting a lot of mic time today, man.
I know, it's great.
Well, there's only three of us.
I'm definitely not sick today either or anything. Alright. We got Geldnar Hothbane of Gilgamesh writing in. And he's talking about Summoner. No, just kidding. I would like to throw in my 2 pennies into this metagaming episode. I do like to metagame myself at times, but on the flip side as well, when is there too much metagaming talk? Sometimes players do too much metagaming, and with all the years of myself playing MMOs, I heard a lot of it. Sometimes too much metagaming and not a lot actual gaming makes for a less productive and enjoyable time while logged into a game. Metagaming talk, in my experience, should be done on off-raid days or after the group is done for the night, so players have time to process the information and try to include into their strats, rotation, etc. When the group raids next. But metagaming is good to have, but not good to talk about it all the time. Also, does being a good player give them the right to act like jerks or worse? Yes. If you're a good player, you can be a dick. Oh, no, you can't. You're not allowed to be a jerk ever. There are players out there that are good, but have a bad or toxic attitude when it comes to interacting with other players in Final Fantasy XIV. And does SE give these good players, a pass when their behavior gets them reported? I have seen some players act terrible to other players, but because they are good, they give that player a pass. While other players who act and behave the same way get a ban?
I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
It probably has to do with the severity of the action or proof behind it or something, but I'm pretty sure Square Enix has never been like, oh, Elysium, you are a world first, so even though...
So no ban.
You know,
even though, you
yeah.
completely, stomped all over their mother and talked about how, you completely griefed them and whatever else, I like you, so you stay.
And question their sexuality.
Yeah, I don't believe Square Enix has ever done that, or ever will.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Think so.
But but to answer your other question, no. Being good at a game does not allow people to be jerks. But unfortunately, with the protective anonymity of the internet, jerks get away with being jerks.
Jerker's gonna jerk.
Jerker's gonna jerk.
oh,
Yep.
that context phrasing, please.
Phrasing.
Hey, jerker's gonna jerk and nutter's gonna nut. There you go. Alright, I'll take the next one here. Hey crew, Khaled Nosair from the Sarge server. All the theories about the Warrior of Darkness that are going around, maybe we get to choose if we want to be a Warrior of Light or Darkness. Kind of like two factions. It would add more competition to the game since you could PvP in the open world if you wanted to. SE could make it only in the new zones so there are no pussies killing new players. Danger to the world in an all-new way. Hunts and Fates, you need to compete with other factions like a claim system that can also be applied to the new islands. 2 24-man groups would fight for control of that island. I don't know, something new that maybe they can try. Also, if given the choice, would the LBR crew be divided or united?
Oh.
That would be fucking awesome.
But will never happen.
I
will
wouldn't
never
see
happen.
it definitely wouldn't happen in open world PvP type of way. I could see it maybe during the main storyline you could have choices that would affect the storyline that plays out just for you, but I can't see it coming into play as an entire server thing.
I don't think so, because the moment you introduce a choice like that, it completely changes the direction and the dynamic of the storyline, and then you are dividing your resources to make two different things, and the narratives for MMOs are normally very, very strict and very driven.
Well, what if it's like Mass Effect, like there's the Paragon and Renegade type of way? And regardless of if you pick the Paragon or Renegade options, the story still plays out.
Okay, sure,
the same.
but...
Like, you still go on to the next mission, the next planet, and the next big bad guy comes.
Okay.
You just act a little bit more rough or a little bit more,
You've got a point, but in that case, I don't think that the Warrior of Darkness would be at all what we thought it would be, to where you end up having to fight them at the end or become a new antagonist. So if they were to do something like that, it would be quite the upset, I think.
Yeah, and I think especially because we saw the Warrior of Darkness with Ascians, I think if we could choose, it wouldn't be more like a Paragon Renegade, which would be cool. It would be more like you'd side with the Ascians, or you would become their pawn or their leader or something, and it would definitely change the story in a way that I don't think Square Enix would play out.
Yeah. As for if LBR would be divided or united, I'm pretty sure I can say that Nika would be Warrior of Light.
Probably.
I would choose Warrior of Light. Ascalia would choose Warrior of Light. Nero would go Warrior of Darkness. And I think
what the fuck is wrong with you pussies? Be Warrior of Darkness, man.
Yep, that Juxta would go Warrior of Darkness too. So there's your answer. We would definitely be divided.
What about Ascalia? Wait, did you say
Ascalia would go Light, yeah.
So yeah, I think so too.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you be Warrior of Light?
I'm a paladin. That's where I belong.
Oh, no, not you. I know you would be Light. Why would you, Kahlo?
Because at the heart of it, I am a good guy.
Well, just because you're a Warrior of Darkness doesn't mean you're not a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, if it plays out in the sense of, being more of a renegade versus Paragon, you're still a good guy. But if it came into the choice of joining the Ascians, that would make you a bad guy.
And remember that in Final Fantasy III, there was Warriors of Darkness who sealed away that big bad person, and they were good people.
Well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. Nika, take this next one. We don't have any short ones coming up, so we're just gonna go back and forth, me and you, and let Sick Juxta sit out a few.
All right, sounds good. All right, this one is from Versath Baruf from the Coral server, and he says, "Hey LBR, last week's show was great, and I'm really glad you guys are discussing the metagame. So many players of any game really fall on knee-jerk reactions when it comes to what does and doesn't change with each patch without considering how much more there is to discover about the game. There's 101 things I could talk about on that subject, but I wanted to talk about Wanderer's Minuet, here we go again, specifically because I think people are looking at it all wrong. I was talking about DPS with my static because we finally stepped into Savage recently, and our Bard is still salty about having to stand still in DPS. I want to put forth his perspective. Bards didn't lose their mobility, they just get more DPS when they don't have to move. This is how I've always looked at Wanderer's Minuet, and now that they got rid of the cast time on it, I basically view it as Cleric stands for Bards. If you know you're not going to be moving much, you use Wanderer's Minuet. You still have the option to turn it off and go back to the run and gun style should you need to. As I see it, Bards now get the best of both worlds. Take Ravana X, for example. When you're pulling the balls around the room, the Bard is the one of the only jobs that is still doing very high damage, while everyone else, especially actual black mages, are doing next to nothing. I just think if people had a different perspective, they would be less bitter about Wanderer's Minuet. Anyway, great show, and I don't always agree with you assholes, but I respect you all the same. Keep it up. With love, Versath Baru from Coral."
Okay,
That is
I'm going to
exactly
say
what Wanderer's Minuet is supposed to be, I'm pretty sure.
no. Okay, this is the reality of Final Fantasy XIV. Every job does roughly the same DPS, given equal player skill and equal gear. So, and that's using all of your abilities on cooldown and doing the maximum DPS. So, if you turn off Wanderer's Minuet to move around, you are now doing less than your maximum damage. Now you're doing like 80% or 90% of your maximum damage. And that means you're being bad. So it's not like you're getting bonus damage. You're doing less damage than what you should be doing.
I think what you described in your email is what they intended for Wanderer's Minuet, but Jux is right. If you're looking at the DPS checks and you're looking at which DPS to take with you, Bard is not getting its full potential if you don't use Wanderer's Minuet. So in that case, yeah, you're still doing damage. Maybe in something like Ravana where you're moving the balls, that's a good point. But in terms of like Alexander Savage, you're losing out on a lot of DPS without it.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this case, it's the metagame that's hurting it the most. Next
or
one.
the fact that DPS checks will wipe you if you don't.
Yeah, because if you're not doing it, like, it's one thing for you to say, oh, well, I just don't want to do it. Like, it's not a big deal. I'm still doing damage. But people know you could be doing more.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
All right, so our next one comes from a longtime listener, Taser Smurf. Hey, LBR hosts and listeners. Taser Smurf from Midgar Sormer here with my take on why so many people love Harchenfart and why his death was so effective. I feel that some of the hosts and other people have forgotten all of the things he did or ways he interacted with us. For instance, how many forgot that he was the brown horse helm during the first New Year's event?
Oh,
It's
really?
what his quote on his Triple Triad card is from.
Wait, hang on. The very first New Year's event, he's the one who gave you the brown horse hat?
I guess so.
Oh, okay.
Anytime we went to the Corythus Highlands, we had to drop in and say hi. The only friendly face we saw there. Who would have investigated in the claim of Francel being a heretic himself if they weren't so close? After we help him clear Francel's name, he points us to where the Enterprise is, instead of the asshole at the observatory who acted like he didn't have a clue what we were talking about. When we go to find out about why the shipment to Revenant's Toll got delayed, who did we go to see? Harchenfant. Who, until he saw our face, thought it was a social call. The man was our fanboy and very emotive, at least in the Japanese version of the cutscenes. If you don't believe me, go to YouTube and look up Harchenfart and scroll down to see the Japanese video where they do a comparison of the CS. The English version is in a small box in the lower left corner. The emotiveness is what made me love him. I seriously thought he was going to bear hug my Lalafell in the cutscene where he states he had to be restrained by 3 of his men because he was that worried about us during our first dealings with Shiva. Could you imagine how the off-screen meeting went when it came up with who got the honor of hosting the meeting of Sir Emmerich and our character? The observatory people, along with Whitebrim, heard Temple Knights and said, oh, fuck no, since many of them seem to be dicks. Meanwhile, Harchenfant would have totally pulled a Hermione Granger when he heard the meeting of the wall, because we needed to get his wall fixed. Wall? What's a wall? What?
Warrior of Light.
Oh, Warrior of Light, right. When the BS at the end of 2.55 happens, he gives us some encouraging words. And hot cocoa. And a place to stay until we can be brought into the city. He'd even have to come check in on how we were doing with his youngest half-brother out in the Sea of Clouds, but I'm sure many of us were thankful. When he saw Bismarck, he not only realized how big most of the other primals we fought were, but also knew it was out of his league. He also became even more in awe of us, which made him love us even more. Who came to our aid to stop the fighting when the false attack by the heretics happened? You guessed it, Harchenfant. The man had nice timing again during our fight against the Heavens Ward. Now, I know some say his death post-vault was telegraphed. Sure, I also thought that something bad was going to happen, but not then. More like sometime between the first and second boss, or the second and third boss of the vault, we were going to get a cutscene of us getting a link shell buzz by Lucia while they were freeing Emmerich, and that he would have died there. The only thing about his death I want to know is what the fuck was his shield made out of, since it seemed to last for a bit. Also, according to some of the official forums, when 3.0 was fresh in the German version of the game, our relationship with him was closer, and actually a thing was gonna go even further if he hadn't died. Again, in that same thread, I guess Harchenfant was a bit more flamboyant and lewd back in 1.0, but since I didn't play back then, I can't find any evidence, and I don't know what to think. His death versus Ysael's, or Moonbreeda's, is more touching to me because, well, for we didn't get to spend a lot of time with Moonbreeda. Along with the build-up up to her death, we got reminded that it would probably take a lot of Aether to kill an Ascian. So when it looked like Nabrialis was going to escape, the spunky Scion, who was going to probably die anyways, went hell no, and did the one thing most probably saw coming a mile away. Even when I figured out that this is how it was going to play out, I didn't want it to, and I begged at my screen for her not to. With Ysael's death, I also kind of saw it coming, due to who she was fighting. I even said to my husband while we were watching the CS, she has this as long as she doesn't turn her back. 2 seconds later, I see on his screen her doing so, giving us that smile right before the Garleans shoot her in the back. I said what I had said because of how the Garleans are. They just come off like a bunch of dicks who would shoot a person in the back like that, primal or not. Now this doesn't mean I pulled into Nero and didn't cry, because I did. I still wanted to see her and Estinian to have that happy ending. Heck, I run around in game a lot with her minion, just ask Saskiote. If you're on Midgar Sormer and want an LBR LS, just send me or Saskiote a tell and we will hook you up.
Ooh,
I really liked the last episode, even if some people felt that you failed at knowing the true definition of metagaming. Sorry for the book of an email. And you're right, I do think a lot of people forget just how much Harchenfant was in the story, but...
yeah, but it's because he never really left that room. Like, I'm thinking back on it, and there was a lot of quests where we'd have to go to Corthus and talk to him, and he'd send us a certain way, and he was like our friend. But until Heaven's Ward launched, I barely remembered who he was simply because he was just an NPC that I talked to and moved on.
Yep.
And I think Heaven's Ward in general, like we talked about with the Scions getting more background, I think in general is getting better at storytelling in general. So I think back in general, just from 2.0, there wasn't a lot of connection, and so a lot of us don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's dead.
And now he's dead.
And now we'll never get that connection that we long for.
No,
Because he's
won't.
dead. Well, we're going to kill him again when he becomes Ixion.
All right, 3 more emails to go, and we're actually over the 3-hour mark now.
Oh my gosh, even with just 3 of us. I didn't
Yep,
know if we'd
even
be able
with
to
just
do
3
it.
of us. Yep. Nika,
All right,
go ahead.
I'll take the next one then. All right, hello LVR.
Oh, wait, no, I need this one.
Oh, you want this one? Take
Yes,
it.
I want
Go
this
ahead.
one, because I
Go
read this guy
ahead.
last time.
Take
Hi, LBR! Bahamut Fury of Gilgamesh here, and man, have I a bone to pick with the guy who wrote you guys that
You
last...
skipped one, that's why.
What? Did I?
You sure did.
That's not the one I was going to read.
Oh, right, the John Cena one. All right, go ahead, read the John Cena one.
Okay, this is actually really funny. Hello, LBR. John Chinera here, not John Cena.
And his name is John Chinera!
John Chinera!
I am writing to reply to what was briefly discussed the past 2 episodes about Paladin being broken. Okay, this is an email for me. Here we go. First off, I started playing FF14 back in 1.0 when my little brother offered to pay for my first 6 months to play the game with him, and have been hooked ever since. My main job since then has always been Paladin, and my little brother's job has always been White Mage. The past 2 episodes, your show has discussed that because Paladin is broken and why people prefer to take Warriors and Dark Knights to make up for the 1% enraged wipes. You also discussed that Alexander Savage's tight DPS checks included not just DPS from the DPS jobs, but the combined DPS of all jobs, including healers and tanks. If this is true, then the DPS checks have included the everyone jobs DPS, then Paladin is not completely at fault. After Final Fantasy released Esoteric and Alex Savage gear, my little brother was all pissed off. Did you know that none of the endgame gear for healers have 1 point of accuracy on it? Yes, and my healers bitch about that all the time. He says, no weapon, no chest piece, not even a ring as a single point of accuracy. My little brother used to be able to run all the level 50 dungeons and DPS with his white mage, but since he reached level 60 and started to get the higher eye level gear, now he misses in level 50 dungeons, let alone the level 60 ones. This is very true, by the way. He thinks he misses around 50% of the time in level 60 dungeons. Now, I have not done Alex Savage yet, but if it's anything like Coil, then the accuracy needed in Alex must be higher than the level 60 dungeons. Any good healer that notices won't waste MP on a spell that is iffy on a hit or miss. So if Square Enix did put all of those DPS checks with all jobs in mind, then why shouldn't they give healers that gear that will make them stand proud and say, now we can out DPS Paladins once again? What do you think? And if I'm wrong in anything, please let me know, John Trenero of Sargatanas.
Okay, now for starters, I do a lot of DPS as White Mage in level 60 dungeons, and I do not miss with Arrow 3.
Do you have full SO gear, though? Because it's the SO gear that starts taking away the accuracy. It's like SO and maybe Alexander or Alexander Normal. I just know a lot of Heaven's Ward gear, especially like the endgame gear, has no accuracy, and so our healers are always bitching about missing.
I feel like that's a really big oversight if all like 2.0 gear had accuracy on it and then suddenly there is none.
Yeah, I feel like they mentioned it briefly in a live letter or in a letter from the, like something on the forum saying like, oh, we're not saying that healers shouldn't DPS, this is just the gear we're giving you.
None of my gear
like,
has any accuracy on it whatsoever. You can check me right now. And I don't miss in level 60 dungeons, not to the point where I notice it.
Yeah, I don't think it's 50%. That seems a bit much.
That is how you say exaggerating.
Wow. All right. So moving on then. Here goes the good email. Hi, LBR. Bahamut Fury of Gilgamesh here, and man, have I...
You didn't say the little emoticons.
There's all those emoticons there.
Yeah, you gotta say them.
It's like a kissy face cigarette.
Probably supposed to be weed and then okay.
An okay sign.
I think he's saying that he's 420 friendly. Bahamut Fury of Gilgamesh here, and man, I have a bone to pick with the guy who wrote you guys last week saying that they are tired of hearing you guys begging for money. Let me school this fool for you guys and shed some light. Let's use Nika for example. From what I gather, she's a teacher, so she's most likely working Monday through Friday, so on her day off, she's probably spending 3+ hours making entertainment for your stingy ass. Not to mention the prep she has to do for the show in the middle of the week. Nikki doesn't do that, we do. I'm sure there's a lot...
Whoa, shots fired.
I'm sure there's a lot more she'd rather be doing on a Sunday night, especially being married. You know what I'm doing with my wife on my days off? Obviously, definitely not trying to entertain 25,000 plus people. Just saying. And that's just one of the members of the crew. So think about that next time you want to complain about them advertising their business. It's how the world works, dumbass. The reason you're listening to the show every week is because people donate. Otherwise, you end up with a State of the Realm type snoozers like last week's State of the Realm episode.
Oh, shots fired.
No offense, Mr. Happy, if you hear this. Still love your shit, bro. But this was the type of player that I was talking about last time I emailed. Bunch of pussies that won't try Savage and only do crafting. Ha ha ha. Lame. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Have fun, guys. Keep up the good work and fuck the haters. Nutter's gonna nut. Feel free, LBR crew, to drop by my lonely stream anytime to say hi at twitch.tv, darkseed44. Take care, and hi, Nika.
Oh, you know, he's got a point, and today is actually Senpai's birthday, so I do have something better we could be doing right now.
Senpai's birthday! Well, one more email, and then we will let you get back to Senpai's birthday.
So, but yeah, so thanks for that email, and hi.
Hi, Nika.
Hi.
Alright, Nick, you want to take this last one?
Sure. Alright, this is from Aladtor TGN from Phoenix server. They say, hey all at LBR, I'll unfortunately be missing today's show due to work, but no, your old episodes I have downloaded to my iPod will be what gets me through a long shift. Anyway, I wanted to ask on what your thoughts are on cheating. Lately on the Reddit, there were people saying that committing suicide to bypass a very hard mechanic was cheating. This is new to me because, at least as I recall, no one had a problem with using the little pit to deal with dive bombs in T5. How do we know that this is cheating or merely cheesing? Should using hallowed ground for swift liberation be frowned upon? Finally, in relation to this, what does everyone think of moonwalking? It is basically assigning a button on your mouse to spam the face target keybond, giving you all the benefits of lock-on with none of the downsides. Bear in mind this works in PvP too, apparently. My personal opinion is that I've not seen anything I'd personally consider cheating, just interesting strategies which makes the game all the better. But I'm interested to see what you guys think. Keep up the good work. Alad Tortigian from Phoenix.
I don't know what that second moonwalking thing is.
So I guess if you lock onto the boss, like you're locked into moving in a circle around the boss, and you're always facing the boss. So I guess you can spam a macro that literally hits the face target, so it turns your character and faces the boss, but you can still move freely.
Interesting.
So I actually have never heard of anyone doing that.
I haven't either. As for the first part, though, we kind of briefly touched on a little bit earlier, but again, that's something that we're going to save for a future show. Have the whole crew together, because I'm sure that we're going to get some really, really interesting and fiery discussions.
Right. Although I didn't think that using the pit to deal dive bombs was. I thought that was like the strategy. Like, did people actually run around to avoid dive bombs in T5, or I thought like running down into that pit and running out was like the only strategy.
I have no idea. I don't really think that I have enough experience with T5 in general to know one way or another. So
that's just the metagame of T5.
That's the T5 metagame. That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So that's all for us today. We ran a little late, which I think we're going to have to cut some slack on a Nero now, because we actually had a day-to-day where we could have got out of here in like a decent amount of time, and we still did the LBR shuffle.
Well, I'm gonna blame the asshole who made this outline, because there's like 800 fucking things on here.
Well, maybe somebody else could have helped with the outline then.
Hey, I added like 2 things to it.
Oh, okay. Well, if you added 2 things,
but then again, that makes it even longer. So
you did.
Whoa! 2 things do not give you producer status, Nika.
Yeah, I know. But speaking of, how much does Nika do during the week? How many times have I been a producer of the last like 5, 6 episodes? Shut your face.
She's helping. She's helping. So, from all of us here at Limit Break Radio, I am Kalo Landis. Of course, with me, my right-hand man, Juxtaposition, our intern, Nika Kayanian, and off having fun and doing all kinds of other real-life things, Aniro Grigori and Escalo Rayumasa. We bid you farewell from Limit Break Radio, the New World Order.